Today's show is sponsored by libertarian conspiratorial fantasy author Jack Casey. Whether you're looking for a 3-book fantasy sci-fi epic of love, death, and dystopian civil war like the Royal Green series, or just looking for a quick, dark, comedic cultural commentary tale about a transsexual slayer of COVID regime vampires, like his latest book, WVW, Jack Casey Books will keep you adequately entertained and pondering the universe to your weird little heart's content. He's the Ayn Rand meets Stephanie Meyer meets somebody who actually writes entertaining books with his own unique little downer-esque flair. Find out more about Jack Casey Books at the aptly named jackcaseybooks.com. Once again, that is jackcaseybooks.com. Have you guys heard of Matt Miller? He's not only the guy who paints those amazing portraits of all your favorite heroes in the liberty movement and in pop culture, but he's also now an official sponsor of this show. From Murray Rothbard to Ron Paul, Dr. Robert Malone to Darth Maul, Matt Miller's Liberty Portraits has something fun for everyone to spice up your home or office and showcase your heroes. Go check out his incredible work at libertyportraits.com. Grab a print to impress your friends, hire him for a custom portrait, or bring him out to a festival to capture your event in real life in a beautiful and unique way. To find out more, just head over to libertyportraits.com. Once again, that is libertyportraits.com.
The Mises Caucus and the Libertarian Party has a job on their hands to make sure that Libertarian Party represents the views of libertarianism. They stand up for these.
Libertarians are the inheritors of an exceptionally venerable tradition of ideas that is noble and beautiful. And that carries with it a grave responsibility. We must be true to that inheritance. Enough putting people to sleep already. It's time we finally woke them up.
The people know about it. They're awakening to this. They're listening to this message. It's up to us to do something about it.
People crave authenticity.
If you're going to get involved, this is serious, you better have some fun.
This caucus is 3 years old, and it is the force in the Libertarian Party today.
I sort of have to chuckle when they describe you and me as being dangerous.
I'm not going to let the people who apologize for our torturers tell me they're offended by my joke.
You have a right to do things that are very controversial.
You're not up there trying to crack silly jokes. You're up there sending a message.
This is who we are. We are the Ron Paul Army. That's who we are.
We are dangerous to the status quo.
We are in the business of ending genocide. End the lockdowns, end the wars, and there is no force on this earth powerful enough
To stop an idea whose time has come.
We weren't here to fight with other libertarians. We're here for the revolution.
Freedom is popular, don't you know that?
When Ron Paul would inspire all of those tens of thousands of young people to come out at every single event, well, we're those people.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the least comfortable show on the web. It's The System is Down, a place where we talk about all the uncomfortable topics like conspiracies, politics, religion, and a lot of politics lately. An awful lot of politics, a lot of takeovers and nerdy shit, lots of fun stuff. And we're going to do just that today because I don't know if you heard, but the prophecy that was foretold to us has now come to pass. And we needed a gathering of the cult to celebrate, reflect, and plan for the future, maybe mourn a loss or two. We're going to get into all that and much more. Before we do, I got to remind you guys about yourselves in the Downers Club. People like Amy Laporte, that's right. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. James Genman, Autumn, Danielle. By the way, Amy signed up at the $100 level just cuz, and she did. I asked her, "What do you want to promote?" And she said, "You just go do your thing." So I'm going to take this time to say, hey, go check out the Libertarian Party of Delaware because they're at least the third most based party in this country, and I would press to say probably a little bit higher because they're the ones that say, hey, come hang out, crash at our pad when we're hanging out in Reno. And yeah, we're going to be hanging out with one of those assholes today. But Amy and friends over in Delaware, thank you. And to everybody else, thank you for supporting the show. The numbers are growing. I really, really appreciate it because I am not allowed to super chat on YouTube. So go on over to patreon.com/The System Is Down if you want more weird, more raw, more offensive, more weekly content, or if you just want to support all of this ridiculous nonsense that I do here on The System Is Down. Patreon.com/The System Is Down. We might be doing an after party today. There's a very good chance whoever is still around by then will be doing an after party. So if you want that, you want all the backlog, you want everything, all like weekly, tons of shit, go get it. All right. So let's roll this intro. We're gonna get into this. People are gonna be dropping in and out as they feel like, possibly dropping out as much as people are dropping out of the Libertarian Party. I'm pretty sure it's like a complete and utter catastrophe over there because once the Mises Caucus takes over, we all knew that everybody was going to leave the party. We'll get into that. All that and much more here in just a second. Let's roll this intro, and of course, let's get weird.
The following is a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
I'll make questionable decisions. I'll be in fact of all I soul. Judge me for my sins. If I'm your image.
All right, boys and girls, I am joined by a panel of guests today. They are going to be many, but right now, we are joined by the one and only asshole of the Mises Caucus, the resident asshole, Dave Casey. I'm pretty sure that's his official title. And I suppose I should have started with our Lord and Savior Mises Christ, Michael Heise. How are you guys doing?
Doing great, brother.
Blessed be.
That's right. There's applause. There's applause happening right now. Hold for applause. All right. You guys can't hear the sound effects, but they might be scattered here and there. We're trying a different system, so people in the chat, thank you for being here. And if there's somebody that you can't hear, if there's any audio issues, please let me know in the chat, and I will try to fix them. But apparently, so like I said, I was planning on doing this recap, just giving my personal thoughts, maybe having Dave on or one other person on to chat about this stuff with, because so many things happened, it's hard to even wrap my brain around everything that went down. But so I thought about maybe I'll just do a solo or one other person, and then I asked Dave, and then I asked other Dave, and then I asked Josh, and then I asked Angela, and everybody said yes. So what the hell? We're just going to have our own Mises Bash here and celebrate, reflect, and plan for the future. And this doesn't look good. Let me move that. All right, cool. So I've got a timeline here. We'll go through some highlights. We'll go through some things that each of us enjoyed the most, what our ups were, what our downs were. Not uppers and downers. We don't talk. What happens in Reno stays in Reno for uppers. Anyway, guys, Michael Heise, we'll start with you. How are you, sir? Things happened this last week, and I hear that you had a few things to do with it. How have you been?
I've been floating on clouds, man. I'm feeling pretty good. I looked forward to that weekend for about 5 years.
Yeah, so you've been like just parties every night ever since, right? You hit the ground running, but you're hitting the ground running. Everybody assumed that you would just be completely useless after this was over because we would destroy this party. How's it going so far?
A lot of cuddling of the wife.
Oh, nice. All right. Straight to it. Dave, you getting any post Reno sex celebrations over there too?
Yeah, as soon as I got home, I tried to make a baby. So yeah, let's fucking do it.
Are you guys really trying?
Yeah.
You bringing up a little baby cake?
Oh shit!
That's
real
legit.
personal, real quick. Congratulations,
Nice.
Dave.
You know,
Straight to it. He went home and he's like, "Honey, I'm potent. I'm jazzed. Let's do this.
feel good. Let's see it.
Let's go make a little Mises baby."
She agreed. Can't believe it.
Nice. Right on. So if you guys want to give, like, I don't know, if anything stands out to you, we can just kind of go through the days. We'll start out with I came in on Wednesday and hung out with the Delaware peeps. That was fun, and just doing our thing. Dave wasn't there till late because he's an asshole, but we were just doing our thing, hanging out and chatting. I hope you guys can't hear the dings. I don't know, whatever.
No dings.
Thursday is when things started really heating up because the Libertarian National Committee or whoever, they had their training on effective messaging within the Libertarian Party, which sometimes the jokes write themselves. Did either of you guys go to find out what the Libertarian Party of yesteryear had to say about messaging?
I had something come up.
Oh, yeah? What was it?
I was very tired.
Lunch.
Yeah, I had lunch come up. Hungry.
So yeah, that happened. I don't know anybody personally that went to it, but that evening was when the actual festivities really started picking up. Heise, you brought me out to the comedy show, and Dave had his Part of the Problem podcast live and all of that shit. We can wait and talk about each person's specific things, but you were a part of that show as well. So how did you feel that night went? Just kind of heating up the weekend.
So when that was going on, that's when I first started to, because believe it or not, I try to wear a good poker face, but I was like terrified going into the whole thing because I mean, I know what data we had, I know the numbers we had, but like, you never know. There's just so many variables that you don't know. It's like the Rumsfeld thing, like there's unknown unknowns, you know? And so I felt pretty confident, but you never actually know. And I thought that it might be alleviated when I started getting in there and mixing it up with people and all of that. And that's exactly what happened. Once I felt like the energy of the room at that show, it kind of felt like it did in PA, where it's like, all right, the energy here seems to be with us. I'm really starting to believe that we've got this, and I could kind of like come back at ease. And I wasn't even until the day of, I wasn't even expecting to be a part of that live podcast. So that was all just, from the top.
You were great on there, man. Natural and funny.
Yeah.
I did not mean to insult Dave. It just kind of came out that way.
How did you insult Dave? I don't even remember, but I might not remember because I'm pretty sure Jeremy Kauffman slipped me a roofie. It's Jeremy Kauffman, everyone. Everybody say hello to Jeremy.
Hey, great to be here. And unfortunately, I was not able to get you those roofies remotely in time. So
I had made a comment. I forget the context, but I had made a comment about how like we're done with these people who just exist to be laughed at, except for comedians, but you know what I mean? Like these other clowns though.
Right. Yeah.
Jokers. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeremy, how are you, sir? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing great. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Thanks for being here.
I'm feeling so good, man. It's like, it was a very exciting weekend. I had like, hundreds of people come up to me. They're all very positive, and I came home with all that energy. I'm ready to get to work.
Absolutely. Don't be too serious about this, Jeremy. Come on,
okay.
This is this
all
show,
right.
not your show. So on what was it? It would be Thursday night is what we're talking about. We're just kind of going through the timeline. If anything stands out, this can go wherever it goes. But on Thursday night, what we're talking about, the comedy show, the podcast, and all that. Your drink that you brought me was the last one I remembered. Okay, so I'm not one to drink that much at all, really. But I'd been running around all day, hadn't eaten at all, and I remember Jared. Like I'm just staying. I'm not even partying. I'm not even like part of the thing. I never am. I'm just over in my little introvert bubble, just filming the show. And Jeremy comes over and he's like, "You want this drink?" And I was like, "I don't know, what is it?" Or I mean, yes, but what is it? And he's like, "It's an IPA or something." And I ended up in my hotel. It wasn't like completely blackout, but things were a little hazy, and I just think it's great that you were the last one to give me a drink. There were several people that were like, "Here, take a drink," and that was that. It wasn't the night I was hoping for, but it was still amazing. And I took the picture, posted on Twitter, of the entire crowd was just a sea of white male faces. It was just a beautiful thing. Heise, how did you manage to find that many Nazis and bring them collectively into one place?
I just tapped into the hatred of the human heart. It's not hard.
Nice. And Jeremy felt right at home, right?
I mean, again, I'm not trying to be too serious, but I loved it. Dave's show on Thursday I thought it was very inspiring, and he's obviously trying to he wants to be the premier messaging guy, and I think he's getting better and better at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And to the people that aren't familiar with this show, or if you're new because you saw a bunch of ridiculous people coming on a show, we have fun here. Just chill out. But that was that night. Did you guys have any, I wasn't interacting with people really all that much that night. Did you guys have any interactions with the crowds or anybody that you ran into? Any stories to share of the Friday night or Thursday night? Dave, you weren't even there. What were you doing?
I just had the same. Oh, go ahead.
Either one. Doesn't matter. Heise, go ahead. You already started talking, and David doesn't know what's going on.
I had the same experience that Jeremy described. Like I had a lot of people walk up to me, and to me, it just signaled how energetic the community really is, you know, and people thanking me for it or whatever. And, you know, I don't necessarily want all of that, but I am really happy to see that people have found it's beyond the ideas. That's the thing that I kind of keep harping on. I think we're all about the ideas and we're all about pushing the ideas forward, but I really think the community is the thing that's got us all glued together and animating this whole thing. And I think that became very, very, very clear, very quick at this convention, which is something I'm really happy to see.
Absolutely. Dave, you were out putzing around like a pleb. What were you guys doing over there in Delaware?
Thursday, we went to the weed store and we bought way too much weed. But that was great. It was a nice experience to go in there and get beautiful customer service with a smile.
Dave was like a kid in a candy store you'd never seen.
Yeah, that was really great. And then when we had to leave, we were like, what are we gonna do with all this weed? And we ended up bartering with the taxi cab driver for a ride to the airport.
Nice.
He made out really well on that one.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome though that you found somebody to get passed off to.
Yeah, sure. It was great. He was like, I don't smoke, but I know some people who do. So that was cool.
He's like, I know how much money I can get off of this, so all good.
Yeah, it was good. He made out okay.
Yeah.
Thursday was cool, man. Just like showing up and saying hi to people and getting acclimated and stuff. But yeah, we took that pretty easy.
Yeah.
Business Friday through Sunday, but Thursday was pretty leisurely for us.
Right on. So the real business kicked off Friday. And again, we can bounce around if you guys think of anything going through this. It's all good. But on Friday, the main two events were the debates between like the vice chair and chair, or not between them, but the vice chair candidates and the chair candidates. And I think there was maybe one other. I'm not sure. I wasn't there for it. But of course, the real event was the Mises Caucus Bash that evening. But before we get to that, the debates. There's some things to discuss there for sure, especially with, like, honestly, it feels like 3 months ago that this all happened because last week felt like an eternity, but I don't remember the chair debates really at all, but the maybe Jeremy gave me something, but the vice chair debates were my favorite moment because did either of you catch, or any of you catch the vice chair debates?
Yes. I did not.
Mm-hmm.
Had to
that was really great.
So Dave knows what I'm talking about, and I wish I had clips to pull up. There will be video clips coming out in the future of some of these things, but I don't remember his name. Joe something, older dude, just went off.
Hoffman.
That was
Joe
fantastic.
Hoffman.
It was so great, dude.
He just went off and just the Mises Caucus, like, we've done this before, and you guys are still like. He got to the point where he was like cussing at the crowd, and people were like heckling him. It was like. I mean,
was so great. Was
it productive or the proudest moment for the Libertarian Party? Absolutely not. But I'm a video guy, so I'm looking for the interesting shit, and I enjoyed it. But
I loved it, dude. You know, I don't know if you guys know Jorge Basada, but he's been in this space for a real long time. And he got up there and asked a great, beautiful question, like softly spoken. Like,
oh yeah,
hey, how do we introduce, like, Austrian economics, Mises, Hayek to like normal people? And this guy gets up there and goes, all right, listen, you're not going to vote for me. I'll guarantee.
Yeah, he kept saying, like, you're not going to vote for me.
That was just like, what a way to kick it off. Just like shit on your own people for a little bit and then see how it all plays out.
Right.
Yeah, that was pretty special.
It was.
I need to see this.
I will share it with you. I will share it with you very soon. But as great as that was, it could only be rivaled by the Mises Caucus Bash. It was a close tie between Joe's speech and the Mises Caucus Bash. But before we get to the bash, anything you guys? I assume we all caught the chair debates, right? You guys have any thoughts on that?
To me, I'll say that Friday morning, it was like potentially, briefly, like a little bit tenuous, like it wasn't 100% certain, right? And I think that by Friday early afternoon, it felt much more solid, and it kind of felt like. Not like there wasn't still work to be done, but it was kind of coasting. It was like the numbers were there. I wanted someone to come up during the debates and just be like, look, I'm going to win. I'm not going to waste your time, and just like drop the mic.
One of the Mises Caucus guys, just like, let's
not
pretend here.
Libertarians like to talk about how, we got to get in the debates. We got to get in the debates. I'll tell you, there were maybe 5% of people in that room who were going to change their mind at that point based off of something that said in the debates. And so That's just, I'm not trying to, I obviously want us to get in the debates. I'm trying to get in the debates in New Hampshire. But I thought that was kind of funny because we're like, oh, the debates. Look, the reality is in politics, and that was a political situation. Reality is in politics, a lot of times people have already made up their mind.
Right. Yeah,
right.
It's another platform, but it's not necessarily swaying any opinions.
I think it's a little bit different, especially now, than it was in the past, because we had all the, the Mises Caucus had all these trainings. We had all these candidate Q&As. Angela had already done all these live streams. She has done a number of debates. Our people, it's this weird thing where we're demonized because we're organized. All of these people came in, they already knew what the entire plan was, what all the vote recommendations were, what we were doing, how we were doing it, why we were doing it. We had spent 15 meetings on this, and because that means they're a hive mind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in one of our recordings for one of our trainings, we had an hour and a half long debate with just us and the delegates not knowing if they were going to go for this one thing we were proposing or not. And we ended up taking it out of the strategic action plan as a result of that debate, and that's considered the hive mind. These people are unthinking. It's no, we're just prepared. And you get people never are.
Yeah, well, that's a huge. I always find that funny because there's these haters on the internet, and of course, there's only 6 of them or 10 of them, and they can't even afford to leave their house to make it to the convention. But they simultaneously will say oh, all of the Mises people, all they want to do is shit post on the internet, and then you ran and put together one of the most. I mean, I haven't been to a ton of LNCs, but you were incredibly organized. It was very effective. And you had a huge group of people working together to achieve an objective that they wanted to see accomplished. Is the exact opposite of a group of people, who just want to be shitposted.
Right. Or as some might say, the Libertarian Party is made up of those who show up. And not just show up either, show up and actually know what you're doing. Collectively, as much as we love collectives, there was a collective effort there just to see a shift in this thing. And I think it really showed. But at what point for you, Heise, what did you was it Thursday, Friday, Saturday? Where did you start to think this is actually going to work? Were you skeptical up until the end?
Right shortly before the bash is when I finally went, okay, we got it. And what it was I think Jeremy kind of alluded to it. One of the big things that we wanted to do failed. Which was to remove Whitney from chairing the meeting. And there was a lot of reasons to want to do that.
And God said, yeah, we'll go ahead and do that anyway. God overturned that ruling.
Vetoed. Yeah. But Ken Mollman, he spoke against chairing the meeting, which was a real shock to me because I am in very close contact with Ken. I had a desire for my main desire was for the business to move along smoothly. So that document that we had, Ken Mollman had access to that document the entire time with the expectation that he would be the chair. And therefore he would know all the Roberts citations to know that we're completely within the rules. We're completely on the up and up. You don't have to let me crack open the book and waste 5 minutes. Right. No, it's right here. We've got everything. So he knew everything that was going on every step of the way. So it was certainly a blind side to me. And there was a concern. I missed Scott Horton's lunch that I paid for because at that point, me and the floor team, as we called it, went and did a strategy meeting. We were kind of concerned that maybe we had lost the room on that. And once we passed the schedule, the new agenda, we knew that we were kind of back in the driver's seat. But the thing that cemented it was I knew right before we went to the bash that we had swept all 6 of the regional races that had happened. And it's all right, we're right on track, and I've got some good news to give everybody, to encourage everybody with in this thing, and we're good.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we'll get to Saturday, but because it was brought up, Whitney became sick, and no ill will, pun intended, on her. But yeah, Ken didn't want to do it, and Ken is the best chairperson we've had since I've been involved in the Libertarian Party. It's dude, you fucking killed this thing. Yes, he's able to keep his cool. He's able to crack jokes to lighten the tension a little bit, and he's able to crack the whip when things need to move along. So Ken, I don't know what happened there, but just know that I'm glad that you didn't get your way. That's all.
I actually walked up to him and I was like, dude, and this was on Saturday after he was chairing. I'm so pissed off right now because you're doing such a good job.
Right.
And he's like, what? And I'm like, you're doing a fantastic job, Ken, and you would have done a fantastic job yesterday.
Right.
Like all of that time wasted ignoring appeals and ignoring, objections and all this crap, all this tension. You're up here, you're keeping business moving. You actually want business to move. You're making jokes. It's light. Like this all would have been yesterday,
right?
And you suck.
Fuck you for being so beautiful, you ginger bastard. Now moving into the bash. The thing that probably, I don't know, what percentage of people would you say were there exclusively for the bash, or that was their turning point into, I'll check this thing out because Ron Paul's there and all that shit. Heise, thoughts?
It depends on, how many total people would you say are there? I would say it was something between 800 and 1,000.
I have no idea because I was up in the front, and when I turned around, I couldn't see the back, so I don't know.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's, if I'm right, and it was something, we'll call it 900. We'll meet in the middle and call it 900. That means there was something like 200 or 250 people who were not Mises at all that were in there.
Right.
So, and that was honestly the plan, because what does Ron do? What has Ron always done? Bring people together.
Yeah.
And my hope with that whole thing was that not only would it energize and encourage our people and get them fired up, but that it would bring people together who are maybe not Mises. Because I think there's a real gap in understanding in the party where I think Mises has a way stronger community element to us and an actual culture amongst us that is just absent from the party at large and has been absent for quite some time. So I was hoping people would basically be drawn in by the allure of Ron and kind of see that culture and feel that community. And then maybe at that point it might click and say, oh, that's what's going on here.
Nobody's wearing hoods. About. What the hell? Where are all the hoods?
Yeah.
I was promised tiki torches, but by the way, to people who are wondering, everybody that is on the lineup agreed to do this at some point. Some of them are going to drop in and drop out. I don't know. I can't guarantee anybody at any point in time, so I don't know. They might just pop in. They might not show up at all. Some of them might be cowards. Or possibly one of them might. Oh,
Did
hey.
you cyberbully them properly?
Look who it is. It's the one and only coward. While his audio is connecting, let's make fun of him. This is Dave Smith of some very failed podcast and some very failed political movement. Dave, is your audio on now?
Yeah, I think so. Do you guys hear me?
Yes. You showed up just in time. We're getting into the bash segment. But before we do, how do you feel about the week? If I could ask you to give a brief synopsis, if that's even possible for you. We've already gone past Thursday, which is your night. Feel free to touch on any of that up to the bash, anything that you want to cover, and then we'll talk about the bash a little bit.
Thursday was legendary. I'd say a brilliant performance by that handsome comic. And
Robbie was pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was where I was going with this. We're talking about Robbie the Fire Bernstein. That guy's the future. But someone's holding him down. I don't know who it is. But no, I don't know. Everything. It was a great time, man. And it was a lot of fun being on the floor. I actually enjoyed the process a lot more than I thought I would. But I don't know. Overall, we could jump back into wherever you guys were. But overall, obviously, I'm very happy with how things went. I think this is we have an unbelievable opportunity now going forward, and I'm very excited about the future of the LP.
Absolutely. Now, before we jump back to the bash. What was kind of for you was there a turning point where you went from, I think we have this to, oh yeah, we can chill. This is good. We've got this.
When we got the agenda through, I was pretty much okay, this is, I was like, this is it now. That was my big concern was when the vote to remove Whitney failed because we didn't get the 2/3. And then we needed the 2/3 for the agenda. I was like, shit, well, if we don't get that, they're going to stall out as long as they can. They tried some shady shit up front with that delegate count.
Yeah.
And they acted like they had no idea what why should we need to know the amount of people that are voting here? Why would that number be important? And it's even as my first time at the convention, you'd be like, well, that's clearly the most important thing of all is to know the numbers of people who are voting. But so I was a little concerned about that. But as soon as we got the agenda through, it was obvious in the room. It was we're taking everything. This is all going to be ours.
Absolutely. Karen and Harlos, welcome to the whatever this is, the Reno Reset recap. How are you doing? Your story arc, quite frankly, was my favorite of the weekend. But what's up? How's it going? Can you hear me? All right, we can't hear you.
Okay, I got it now.
All right, cool.
My Zoom controls, they were having an issue, so I found them. I'm not a big Zoom fan.
Zooming in from the, is that the Libertarian Party official account that you're zooming in from there?
Oh, am I? Listen.
I hope so, because it's just beautiful.
Hold on. It's not. For some reason, Zoom, no, it's my personal account, but Zoom has some kind of, all of a sudden, it started reverting. I can't even explain it. No, even when I was in exile, it did that, which was funny. I think Zoom was trying to tell the LP something, but yeah, no, it's my own account and it keeps doing that, which, you know, at some Mises caucus meetings was freaking some people out at first because they were like, holy shit, is Whitney at our meeting? But no, know. It just kept doing that. Don't know why.
Right on. Well, Karen,
all out of tears to give, Karen.
All out of what?
Tears.
Yeah.
I've got some of those tears on camera. Makeup. Those are coming out soon, just so you know.
Nah, well, that's why I'm wearing makeup again, because no smearing of makeup, okay?
No, it was a beautiful moment. I loved every minute of it. But Karen Ann, we're just kind of going through the timeline. We're up to the bash, but I am going around getting everybody's kind of like where the turning point was for you. Oh, she's leaving. All right, fine.
Yeah, because the mic was.
That's all good.
Sorry. Fussy. Oh God, now it's here. There we go. Better.
So Karen Ann, for you, was there a turning point where you went from we might have this, you know, it's not necessarily in the bag, that turning point to where you're like, okay, the reset is happening. This is a go.
No, I agree. I came in right as Dave was saying when we got the agenda through.
Right on. Yeah, and
I really do think that was a big turning point. And I know a lot of people thought, of course, libertarian, and it's nothing to do with even Mises or anything like that. Libertarians are just generally suspicious. So of course,
sure.
Conspiracy, this agenda is terrible. You're wanting to blow up the world or whatever it might be. They would have done that no matter who.
And they call us conspiracy theorists.
That's just what libertarians do, because there was really nothing really nefarious about that agenda. But yeah, that's when I knew that things were going to go fairly well. I didn't think they were going to go as well as they did, honestly, but I've always been the little negative Nancy of the group.
Yeah.
But I think you need that sometimes. Yeah. But I do think you need that sometimes to keep everyone grounded, but I was the negative Nancy of the group.
Yeah. Right on. And we can jump around for anybody who just jumped in. We can jump around if something comes up, whatever. We don't have to stick to a schedule. This is not a Libertarian National meeting or whatever. You don't have to submit the changing of the agenda because there isn't one. But Heise, the bash is your deal primarily on Friday night. Tell us about the bash. Tell the people who weren't there what they missed and how sad they should be.
Very sad. That was by far our biggest event to date. Like I said, I want to see if anyone disagrees. Is it fair to say there was something like 800 to 1,000 people in that room?
Something like that.
Dave, you probably had the best vantage point. What would you say?
Yeah, you're taller than me.
Dave Casey had the back of the room and Dave Smith at the front of the room. So between the Daves, we should have a pretty good grasp of
I would have put it right around there, between, I think, over 800, probably somewhere around 1,000 people in the room.
Packed.
Yeah.
Freaking packed.
And so what I had several goals that I wanted to do with that. One, we wanted to reward and appreciate our people, because there really is 200 people who are organizers in their state. So day in, day out, they're working with spreadsheets. They're working, they're calling people, they're recruiting people, they're running them through our onboarding program. They're trying to sell to these people basically. And then they're trying to organize them after that. And that's just drudgery. So it is a lot of work. So we wanted to really, get some fancy awards and give those out. Karen Ann won the highest honor of the Take Human Action Award.
She beat Ron Paul. She beat Ron Paul, motherfucker.
Take that, Ron.
What you got, Dr. Paul?
So we started with that, but then we had Daniel McAdams, who, if Scott Horton is the best foreign policy mind that we have in the movement, Daniel McAdams is right up there with him, kind of the number 2 guy there at the Ron Paul Institute. He gave a good talk. And then we had Zuby out, which is something I was really happy to do, proud to have Zuby out there. I really wanted to have somebody like a Zuby or like a Dave Rubin or somebody out there that hasn't really been traditionally connected to our thing, so that like they could come and see that community that I keep talking about and that energy for themselves and kind of use that to, you know, forge relationships there. So he got a very good response. He obviously was having fun. And then we had Scott Horton emceeing the event. Dave spoke, Maj Toure spoke, and I got a lot of feedback that Maj had the best talk of the night. And people took what he had to say real serious too. You know, because I now have people in Minnesota sending me a bulletproof vest. I'm not even joking.
Nice.
So Angela, she's not here yet. One's coming Angela's way too.
Yeah.
But he kind of brought
small.
like
it's just like a little wrap.
we got
crop top.
Yeah, so we got Angela a bulletproof sleeve.
Hey, Josh is here.
You guys just want me to be shot, huh? That's the best.
Karen Ann's the only one person who didn't get one. It's just sabotage. Josh, I know that your time is probably limited here. So what's up, man? How are you doing? Congratulations on being the vice queen. I'm not sure how this works.
What's up, man? How's it going? Hey, thank you so much for having me on, Dan. Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, my time's a little. We're still on the road. We haven't even made it out of the West Coast yet. We're up in Oregon right now, so we're going to be heading tomorrow through Yellowstone and then back to Iowa.
Then down to Disneyland again? Is that it? Is that
no,
your long
Disneyland.
campaign
I haven't grifted enough for another Disneyland trip yet, unfortunately, but maybe someday. You know,
pick it up, man.
No, thank you, man. It was you know, when that first ballot came out. I was kind of like, I looked at it, and Jeremy could probably attest to this. I saw it, and I was only up by 2%, and I was like, oh, well, that's it. You know what I mean? Because I was like, you know, I figured my supporters were going to vote for me on the first ballot, and I wouldn't have much support on the second ballot. So to watch it grow every ballot was pretty. It was pretty amazing to watch, and I'm very excited about the work that we get to do over the next 2 years. I think it's going to be awesome.
Absolutely. And I'll ask you, Josh, the same question I've been asking everybody else. What was the point, if there was one, where things seemed to turn? I know for you it was probably a little later than everybody else, because everybody else is like, oh, this is when the takeover officially, like you go from, I think it's going to happen to this is obviously happening. But even if it did happen, for you, it wasn't a guarantee that you were going to get the spot that you did. So where were kind of those turning points for you, if you can recall?
Well, I'll tell you this. I was telling Mike Heise like at least a month ago, like it's gonna be a bloodbath. I already knew. I've been following along with the kind of hard count of delegates, but my race was never guaranteed. And so when I started to see, you know, when I saw Angela's race and then of course Karen Ann's race, which I cried more about Karen Ann.
Right.
I just knew, you know, that's what was going on. But I knew that was what was going to happen prior. I figured we had a minimum of 65% of the delegation. And, you know, when I first saw the first couple of votes, the vote to change the agenda, especially, that was when I was like, yeah, I was right. I knew I was right. But yeah, my race, obviously it wasn't guaranteed. And I knew that. I knew I had to work my ass off for it. So I worked the room, man. I never sat down. I kept walking around, talking to everyone I could, trying to explain to people why I thought I was the best choice, why I think I could be a good teammate for Angela, and kind of try to quell some of the fears that people had about me being the vice chair. And I think I just finally did enough work. And there was a big turn too, you know, on that first ballot, Nebraska basically didn't vote for me at all, and on the second ballot it was unanimous. So I mean it happened quite frequently through the 4 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Something that some other people might not know, I had Sasha Cohen come up to me right around the beginning of the second ballot and said, hey man, it seems to us like your vice chairmanship will hurt Angela, you know. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, that's just stupid. Like, of course I'm going to try and support Angela in any way I possibly can.
So you're telling me that the same guy who was protesting outside of Tom Woods' breakfast was really concerned about how Angela's campaign was going.
Exactly. And so I was like, yeah, man, I don't know, man. It might be rough. It might be really rough. And so I got reports back that him and Nick Sarwark and all the other losers were actually whipping votes for me on the floor. And even Jackie Perry and her husband, Daryl, voted for me. And then they got down to the last ballot and thought they would have enough support to get me noted. Unfortunately, they didn't. But yeah, that was a pretty interesting. It might be one of the reasons why I stayed a couple percent up in the first couple of ballots. So
it was those hex votes. Those hexes.
Yeah, hey, more power to them. Thanks for putting me over the mark. Of course, I'm going to be a team with Angela and do anything I can. I want to text Angela and be there for her as much as possible. That's what my role is. Hopefully, any of those pretty those worries that people had, I think we'll be able to get rid of those pretty quickly. So,
you know what I think was another factor, Josh, and it might have been you that told me this. So correct me. Somebody told me this. I can't remember if it was you, but when Ken was like, I don't want to be the vice chair, there was definitely some people who were on the fence who were like, we just can't trust these moderates. You know what I mean? Like,
that's what I did. I went around and told people that. Mike, after, and I did come up to you as well. I said, look, man, we when we came into this movement, into this party, we were willing to work with anybody. Yes. And that was the case. I mean, even for me. Yeah, of course. But that was the case even, going into my second campaign. I was like, all right, there's a lot of really shitty people in this movement, in this party. But I'm still willing to work with them as long as they're, somewhat reasonable. And I just kept watching us get burned over and over and over again. It was like breaking my heart, man, because we worked so hard to get to where we were. There's like, we got that New Hampshire board and we were like, oh yeah, Aledo will be good. And then she burned us. And it was like, I just watched it happen over. I watched it with Victoria and in Colorado. I kept seeing it happen. And then I could point to these instances where it was happening, but no one ever, outside of New Hampshire and some of these states, they had never seen it with their own eyes. And Ken just walked on the floor and was like, everyone look at me. I'm going to do it right now. And he just stabbed us in the back, dude. And so it was really easy for me to go around and be like, look, this is what we've been trying to do for 5 years. We finally are at a point where we don't have to extend olive branches. We can be super selective about who we give them to. And we have to make sure that we vet the situation correctly and not get stabbed in the back. We just watched someone that we call friend stab us in the back on the floor. Is that what we're going to do in our second highest spot on the LNC? We're going to give somebody that position. Now I love Angela, but if she has to step away for the bathroom or anything, he's going to become our chair. Okay. And that to me, that was what was driving my campaign, is like, I need somebody who's going to be 100% right all the time on all the issues. I know Angela's going to do that.
I'm going to be 100% right.
As far as, if you can look at my voting record, it's impeccable. You can look at, if you want to talk about the issues, the COVID regime, the wars, the Federal Reserve, crypto, any of this stuff, you're gonna see that I'm with us 100% of the time on those issues. And so I want a chair that's going to message that way. And I know Angela could do that. I knew that from the beginning. That's why I dropped out in my chair race and supported Angela, because I was like, look, she's amazing. I know she can speak really well. She gets people on our side. But I don't believe Eric could do that. And so that's why I kept my campaign against Eric. And that's why I fought as hard as I did. And it would never, a good thing, I like Eric. He's a nice guy, personable. I love hanging out with him, but he's just not, when it comes to what I feel represents me, he didn't represent me. And so, I kept running and we won. And I'm glad that we did. And I wish luck to Eric and anybody else who ran this weekend and didn't win, except for maybe Nick Sarwark and a few of those people. But, we got a good team now. I mean, I just spent 4 years on a national committee with people who would spend all of their time fighting each other, where we could get no work done at all. Now we have a team that's like amenable. They're passing resolutions already that we all agree on. I mean, we're ready to go. And we're raising money. We're going to start working with candidates. I mean, this committee could be something special. And it's because we are kind of on the same page. And that's all I ever wanted to see. And now, my initial campaign slogan in 2018 was, let's get to work. Well, I got on the board and it was like, wow, I can't do shit. I can't do anything with these people. Now I get the opportunity to bring that slogan back and get to work. I've let Angela know, hey, I'm here for you, whatever you need. Let's have meetings every 10 days. You can keep me on task. I'm willing to work and do whatever it takes. So I think it's going to be a good team. I think it's a team that's going to make this party something that it's never been. And I'm very, very excited about that for sure.
Now, going back to the part about I know this is way back. You rambled a bit. I know you're still in campaign mode. You'll get out of it. It's all good. But when they're casting hexes and voting for you in order to get the NOTA, whatever, to work out, or to destroy the party, because they thought, what I heard was they were trying to get you in there because they thought that you would not be good for Angela and you guys would butt heads, which that should tell you something about these people's motivation if their intention is to they're so dedicated to this thing. They're really distraught that we're taking over this, but this is their precious baby. But once the baby's not being raised the way they like, then they're like, just fucking kill the baby. We hate the baby. Get rid of the baby. Like,
right.
That's your principle.
That's exactly what it is, man. They look, if they can't, it's like a jaded ex-boyfriend, right? If I can't have you, no one can. And that's kind of where they're at, man. It's like we, you know, and that's why I gave that little toss out in my speech after Dave made me cry. I gave that little toss out to the speech. I said, you know, there are people in this party that have laid the foundation, the groundwork for us. You know what I mean? There's some good people out there. I think Bill Redpath, he's not on our side, but man, he's done a lot of really good work in ballot access, right? And we had D. Frank Robinson who wrote the original bylaws and platform. I mean, he was one of the founders, and he's sitting there.
Write the original platform. I'm not going to let you get away with that.
Oh, sorry. He worked on it, but he also worked on the original bylaws for the party. I know that.
Pip Boyles was the chair of the original platform committee.
Right.
And with the history, of course, Karen Ann.
But listen, I can't get anything past Karen Ann Harlos. She's one of the smartest people in the party. But there was a lot of good people that have done the work before us that are still reasonable. And so that's why I gave that toss out there because, well, for one, I needed them to vote for me. But for two, you know, that they've helped lay some groundwork for us in these ballot access areas, in these lobbying areas, in these, you know, the presentation of our messaging and all this stuff. And we're just trying to take that and better it. And so we have a board that I think is going to do that, and I'm stoked about it. That's all that really matters to me. But I did have to talk about that because there's some good people in this party. Then there's shitty people that apparently coalesced around some idea that I was going to bring Angela down, but they were sadly mistaken.
Can I just say, like, because I think like Dan, you make like it's a really important point, right? And it's really one of the things that I think you can see is like the difference in how people act, and it demonstrates kind of like where their priorities and where their values actually are. Right. So like for me, okay, like I was really all behind Jacob Hornberger to be the nominee in 2020. I got very invested in that, and he lost. And he lost a very close race. And I didn't really know anything about Joe Jorgensen, but I knew that a lot of the people who didn't like me got behind her when it came down to like the second and third ballots there. And my immediate response was I invited her on my show the next day. I had her on like a week after the week after she got the nomination. And I gave her nothing but a platform to just get her ideas out. Because I just wanted to be, my thing is like, well, look, she wasn't my pick, but hey, I hope she does really well. I hope she makes a lot of noise and introduces a lot of people to these ideas and like helps us have a libertarian moment. Now, I wasn't that optimistic that it was going to happen, but it was still like, hey, let me help them out. Then I had Spike on my show to try to play, and I didn't start criticizing them until the criticism was like, oh, you guys are blowing the opportunity to have a big libertarian moment here.
Our stance is, like, I hope you don't suck. And theirs is, if we can't have it, no one can.
Exactly. But it's because what my priority actually is liberty. Right. It's not like my priority is like, oh, let me hang on to some little relevancy here. Like I'm confident enough that I'll have relevance. Like I'll bring enough merit to the table that I'll have some role in all of this. Whereas they're looking at it in a different way. And to the other point of like, because this is what a lot of people are talking about now is it's like, well, coming together and everyone working together. And this was kind of like the message of Spike Cohen's talk at the convention, which I thought was great. And I love Spike. Yeah. And I think he's really great. And I agreed with a lot of what he had to say. But my pushback would be this, like, of course, Josh is right that there are, I would say, the overwhelming majority of the party outside of the Mises caucus are great people, are good libertarians who I'm happy to work with. But there does have to be like a line that's like drawn. Like if we're going to all come together, then there has to be this kind of like bare minimum line of where it's like, no, you don't call people Nazis and then think I'm going to like be cool with you and work with you. You don't go after people's families. Like, I'm sorry, any of the people who went after Tom Woods in the way that they did, those, I'm not working with any of those people. If they want to leave the party, absolutely. I'll throw you a few bucks for your to pack your bags or some shit on your way out. I have no problem with you leaving. Like there are lines, and even Spike said in his speech, this is the only area, and I was giving him standing ovations during this speech, but the only area where I'd give some pushback is like, he kind of did the equivalency thing where he said, he goes like to people resisting the takeover, you're saying, oh, a bunch of Nazi bigot alt-righters are taking over the party. And to the people for the party, you're saying, oh, it's a bunch of like woke tards or something like that, you know, on the other side. And I'm just like, look, those things are not equivalent. Right. It's not equivalent to call someone woke to call someone a Nazi. Like, maybe it's just me as like a Jewish grandson of a Holocaust survivor. That word like fucking means something to me, but that's not just like a casual thing. Like, no, there really were woke members of the Libertarian Party. There were not Nazis. You know how many Nazis there are in the Libertarian Party? Zero. There's not a single one. There's not one who's even.
There's one out there. There's one out there that's really disappointed to hear you say this right now. He's like, I heard.
He's all dressed up in the whole like.
There's one guy in the back of the comedy show. The one guy in the back of the comedy show in a cloak. He's like, oh shit, wrong part.
He's like, oh, this damn Jew, he got me again. But so that's all I'm saying is like, I'm happy to work with whoever, but at the same time, I'm not going to be like, oh, because we won and we're in power now, I have to be a bitch and like not tell the truth and pretend I'm not who I am. Like, no, dude, if you're one of those people who is like smearing good people based off nothing, then like you can get the fuck out of here. I don't care. Like, and you know, I was arguing with what's his name, Steve, the guy who ran against Angela Dasbach, and I'm trying to not argue with anybody right now because I'm just focusing on the bigger picture. But he said this thing, he was complaining in the Libertarian Party discussion group there on Facebook about how there's this motion to condemn the Southern Poverty Law Center as irrational and repugnant. And he's like, this is a direct attack on other LP members who were upset about removing that plank. And I will not stand for attacks against other LP members. And I was like, Steve, so then you must have really had a problem with the people who went to the Southern Poverty Law Center to denounce other LP members as racist bigots. Not this like, oh, you've like, detected somewhere embedded in here is an insult, but like an overt attack toward a group that are our enemies, that are enemies of liberty, as we all know. And he's like, well, that didn't come from the LNC. And I go, oh, okay. So then you must have really had a problem when two former sitting chairs denounced our entire movement as a bunch of bigots, right?
David Valenti's a former sitting LNC member.
Right. Okay. So I'm just saying, and then, so I say to him, I go, well, listen, if we can get through multiple chairs calling us racist, Charlottesville marchers, bigots, if we can get through them literally attempting to steal assets and state affiliates from us, then you can get through us calling the SPLC what they are. Right. Deal with that. And so I do think to some degree that should be our message to some of these guys.
Well, I find it really.
Sidebar. David Valente is a well-known bitch. Also, by the way, that's all I need to say on that. Go ahead, Karen. Sorry.
I got to bounce, guys, and it's a shame because we're just getting to the juiciest part. But I'm still at work, so thank you for having me.
So
on.
good, Jeremy. Thanks, Jeremy.
Check out Odyssey.
I find it really disturbing that people are more upset that they think we're attacking a phrase than they've been at people attacking real life and blood people. Because the funny thing is, I was one of the first people that was very prominent to come out against that phrase, saying it doesn't belong on our platform, that it belongs in some form and potentially a resolution. Nobody who wanted that phrase out of the platform disagrees with it in its pure form as to what it should mean. What we disagree with is the way it's been used. And for people to ignore that is being willfully ignorant and, to me, disrespecting what that phrase is supposed to use. I can tell you, I'm probably out of this group right here, I'm probably the most woke person. It comes with the pink hair. It seeps into your brain. So I'm the token wokester, I guess, here. But I can tell you, I found that phrase offensive because the way it was being used was minimizing actual racism. And I don't think there's anything more insulting to actual victims of actual racism than to weaponize racism, because then actual racists get cover. And I am tired, honestly, of the moaning and groaning about deleting that plank. Don't blame the people who wanted to delete it. Blame the people who misused it, because you can only call people falsely racist for so long before they react.
Right.
It was a dialect.
It was
they all react at the same time.
To back up Karen Ann's point here, and this is really, I think, the truth of the matter, right? Is that if we for all of us in the 80s or in the 90s, or even probably in like the year 2010 or something like that, I really highly doubt that too many people would really have even objected to it being in there. We might point out, yeah, look, it's kind of a not exactly libertarian value. It's like there's all this libertarian stuff and then this is plus, you know what I mean? But I could kind of understand why it would be in there. The country does have an ugly history with racism, as all countries do. And most of us wouldn't have really objected to it. But the thing is that we're living through a moment right now where there is like a national hysteria about this stuff, like where everything that progressives don't like is called racist. And that's completely seeped into some aspects of this party in recent history. And so now it becomes the thing where you just, anybody you don't like, you accuse of all of these things. And to Karen Ann's point, as that starts being utilized within our party, it's like, okay, so then we'll just get rid of the plank altogether. Now, I personally didn't vote to get rid of it. I didn't really care either way, but there's like a very strong argument for it that it's like, look, man, like we're all against racism. But when we say that, we mean that in the traditional definition of the term racism, which meant racism. Today, people call you a racist for like literally the most
everything other than segregation. Anything other than segregation now is
literally
racist.
And the champions of anti-racism straight up advocate for segregation. So it's like it's a very weird upside down world we're in right now, and like we have to figure out how to navigate those waters.
And one of the things.
I'm sorry. I just want to say I actually love Spike's replacement language because it states our actual position.
Yes.
Agree.
Yeah, and that's what I said when he came up to me, and I know he came up to Angela, and I was like, well, there's no thought crime in here. This is just true.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, of course I don't have a problem with this. And I think what Dave was getting at is that like part of what we had to do as we, the Mises Caucus, is we had to repudiate the progressive cultural takeover of the party that had happened in recent times. And we had to do it in such a way as to send a signal to the wider movement who is already hip to the dialectic that language represents, to make it appealing to them, because that's always been the problem that we're trying to solve, is how do we get the wider liberty movement, whose name we're using, libertarian, into its own party? That was one of the things that had to happen.
I just want to say really quick that, Mike, you've said this numerous times, that it's not so much ideological differences between us and these people, it's character, right? So if you see anybody that reads that and goes, racist, like they know you're not a racist. They're using that the same way that they've just used this over and over.
Projection. To me, it's just absolute projection. Anyone who honestly believes, looking at the vast majority of this party, that all of a sudden we're going to be embracing of racism, I think this says a lot more about you than it does about the other people. There is no way on God's green earth that I am ever going to lock arms with a racist. I know this is going to sound so much like, oh, I have a black friend, but I don't really give a crap at this point. I just ask people, just let me give you an example from my past. I came from a generation where my parents were a little bit racist. That's kind of how it was. I think a lot of us, if we were honest about some of our older relatives. So what I did when I was a freshman, just to horrify my parents, I chose to go to a magnet school that was 99% Black. Just to horrify them. That's how big of a racist I am.
Is this when you had the braids?
To see well, no, that was after. I did the cultural appropriation after. I had a mohawk at that time. But if anyone wants to see the high school I went to see what a big racist I am, that I chose to, just look up Blanche Ely High School in Pompano Beach, Florida. It was 99% Black. And guess what? I was elected class president of my sophomore year. That's how big of a racist I am.
Did Michelle Pfeiffer substitute teacher there and then turn the whole thing around? I know the school you're talking about.
The minute people started calling me racist, they could kiss my libertarian ass.
Pause. As much as I love talking about racism as the next guy, Spike Cohen is here. Also, we have an ad real quick to run. Here's a word from our sponsor, Esteros, and then we will be back with more racism and more Spike Cohen. Two things that are not related to each other. 1 second.
Today's episode is sponsored by Astero's Cybersecurity Services. These days, organizations of all sizes are targets for cyber criminals, disgruntled employees, or even nation-state attackers. Astero's performs cybersecurity services providing expert guidance to help organizations defend against threats and protect their data. Astero specializes in penetration testing, where they perform ethical hacking on networks, web apps, or organizations as a whole to simulate what an attacker would do and plug the discovered holes before anyone malicious finds and exploits them. Asteros also specializes in vulnerability management, security awareness training, phishing simulations, cloud security audits, compliance readiness assessments, and much more. As technology expands, it becomes easier and easier to run a business, but if your security is not growing along with your company, then you're going to run into problems. If you don't personally have a company of your own, definitely pass this information along to someone who does, because for a limited time, Asteros is offering companies an attack surface audit completely free. Let Asteros discover potential entry points to your network and how susceptible your company or organization is to cyber attacks. To learn more and to take advantage of this essential offer, just go to asteros.com/free. That's Asteros, ASTEROS.com/free.
And we're back with Spike Cohen, who didn't get the notice that we were coming. But Spike, welcome to the show, the thing that we're doing here. And
yes.
We've been all over the map. So far, we've made it up to the Mises Caucus Bash. We were going through the timeline, and then people came, and things happened exactly the way I expected them to.
Joshua took everyone off track with his campaign speech.
That's right. He's still campaigning. He's still out on the road. But Spike, welcome to the show, and how are you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. And by that, I mean I probably have COVID, but I'm still doing good.
Yeah, Angela
I'm
might
good.
not be making it because she just said that she does not have a voice. I told her if she wants to come in and Queen wave and then leave, that's fine, make an appearance, but she might not.
And I blame me. I've been sending her. Okay, this is not a sign of things to come. This is what the secretary does during the first week. Yes, 99 out of 100 emails have been from me. That is not the way it's going to continue. There's just a shit ton of administrative.
It's not.
Yeah, well, I can't promise, I guess. That's not my plan, but there's a lot of administrative stuff to do. And if you guys think you've been flooded, I've been sending Angela.
Before we lose service here, because we're going into a back road. If anybody's upset that they can't see Angela today, she's coming on Break the Cycle on Friday. It'll be me and Angela. So.
Shut up, Josh. Shut up.
Invite me.
Go do work.
I see how it is. I don't get the bulletproof jacket. I don't get the invite.
You're coming on too, Karen Ann. We got some things to talk about.
I'm going to cast a hex on Angela and make sure she can't speak in time for your show either. But Spike, you're here, and we haven't gotten your thoughts on anything yet. You're not you're in the Mises Caucus even more than I am technically, as far as being a member, but you're not as maybe not as hardcore as some of the rest of the folks here. But what were your thoughts on how this weekend went, and was there a turning point for you where you thought, yeah, this thing is going the way that the prophecy has foretold?
Well, I think pretty much as soon as I saw who was there, I knew what was going to happen. And honestly, even before I got there, I knew what was going to happen, or was pretty sure of it. Even with some shenanigans at play, if that had happened, when you come in with 2/3 to 3/4 of the people there's not really a heck of a lot they could do to stop it. And I was seeing what was happening at state conventions for the last 2 years. It was it was a sort of a sure thing that it was going to happen.
Yes.
So it's funny because you say not hardcore. I think with the exception of Michael, I think I've been in the caucus longer than anyone else that's on this show. No. Yeah. Josh, I thought you weren't on anymore. Sorry. Yeah. You and I are probably pretty closely tied for it, because I joined in that first couple days, and I think you did as well, probably just before me. And I will say, I've been open about this, I wasn't a fan of the takeover narrative. I thought it was unnecessarily adversarial. Ultimately, it didn't really matter whether it was or not. The Mises Caucus came in with a commanding lead. I have been saying to anyone who didn't want Mises to take over, you have to bring more people. And on the other side, I've told people who want the Mises reset to be a permanent thing or a long-lasting thing, continue bringing more people. This party does well. The more people that come and the more ideas that come as a result of it. So, I mean, it is what it is. So yeah, even before I really got there, it was fairly obvious what was going to happen. And especially being there and seeing that, yeah, this was just the layout of who was there. It was going to be a pretty commanding a pretty commanding lead for Mises.
Yeah.
Now, I wish more people would like have taken Spike's advice on that to heart. And I saw you like giving that advice to a lot of people, like the people who really were like haters of the Mises caucus, just being like, okay, so what's your plan here? Because they're doing this. So what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? Like they're recruiting people and organizing and working very hard. So what are you doing? And as much as there are some of those people, even some who are like leaving the party now, and a lot of them are people who I personally will not work with in any capacity, because like there's just certain lines you can't cross and then still work with people. Like if you call me a Nazi, I'm not going to be interested in working with you. But the truth is that I care about liberty more than I care about any of this internal drama. And most of those people, even if they went to like the Green Party, they'd probably be like the best person in the Green Party. You know what I mean? Like, as far as I'm concerned, they believe in liberty more than the rest of those guys do or whatever. And also, if they're just outside of the party or whatever, I wish them success. Like if they can move the needle one fraction of a centimeter closer toward liberty, then I'd be thrilled with that. But it's like, to all those guys, and they're not going to listen to any advice from me, it's like, you're never going to do anything successfully unless you embrace that advice that Spike was giving you. Like you have to, like, at a certain point, bring something to the table. I've seen like a few of them who are like, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to leave the party and I'm going to continue to call out the Mises caucus. And you're like, yeah, but that's what you've been doing.
That's
like, it's been going great.
Like, I mean, don't you see that this is like, what impact do you think this is going to have? So you and your 37 people in your group are going to keep calling everybody a racist? Like, okay.
But the Keystone Party, bro, believe me, bro, it's going to work, bro. I promise, bro.
Well, I wish they would get it together a little bit. Like there are like some people in that group who have some abilities. I'd like them to put it to good use. I wish they would have taken Spike up. We would have been way better off in this party over the last few years if, instead of it just devolving into this nonsense, we had like a really honest, spirited competition over what direction this party should go in. We would have been in a much better place for all of us and for the movement in general.
That's a good segue to, because I'm going to go on a little rant here and then I got to jump off. My boo thing just got home and trying to hang out with her. But I've been saying this for a while where, you along with this came this thing of like, well, I hate caucuses. And I actually think that caucuses are 100% necessary for the growth of the party, for the reason that libertarianism does not have too much to say about culture. So then the question is like, how do you get people who might agree on a political philosophy, but otherwise have different or sometimes even competing worldviews to kind of come in and get along and work together and all this stuff? And I think the caucuses is the way to do that. It allows us to have, if you have a veterans caucus who kind of have that experience and that they can talk about that with each other and navigate the ideas and their interest in the party and yada, yada on their own terms, then great. If you have, let's say, an urban caucus or a black caucus or something like that, it's the same thing. They can talk about the ideas on their own terms. All we have to do as separate groups is have an overarching idea of like the interests of the party are above all of us. And then all of this stuff stops and it just becomes a friendly competition.
Kudos to everybody for not making a big black caucus joke, but please continue.
Was just going to say, I am so proud of the maturity of the people in this group.
We're really coming together.
It's about to go
I can
out
feel
the
a change.
Caucus, and we all just sat there stone-faced.
We were all thinking it.
Emails.
We were all thinking it.
I'm about to throw the
so
maturity
proud
out
of
the. I'm about to throw the maturity out the window because I want to give. I wanted to give one clarification because this was brought to my attention by Nick Gillespie in my Reason interview. He brought up the whole like every state that we fucked end up loving this dick joke that I made, and brought that up in the context that it was like, should the leader of this thing really be making rape jokes? And it's like, hang on a second, and Spike just confirmed it. By
they were 12 shots in.
No, this dick was voted in. Like this dick was voted in, and,
a common
and
strategy.
we got married. Like, you know what I mean? That's all that happened, and that's how it works.
Okay. As the only, I suspect, though I'm not assuming anyone's gender, possessor of a vagina in this conversation, I will say that I find calling obviously just a joke, a rape joke, those people out there, screw you. There is actual rape.
Don't say screw you. That's a rape insult, I'm pretty sure.
I heavily inferred that he was a humorless scold in that moment.
But like, I am tired of everything being a freaking rape joke. Okay, like, stop it. That was, I was there at the time that happened, and I was like, oh my God.
He wasn't referring to rape.
But-
Yeah, it wasn't something I'd say, but he wasn't referring
I'm
to rape.
so tired of this minimization of actual bad things.
Actual rape.
It was Democratic insertion.
Stop it. I mean, not to be revealing like all kinds of things, but I was the victim of an attempted rape in my teenage years, and I find it highly offensive to call everything frickin' racism and rape. Stop it.
Agreed. Spike.
Agreed.
Speaking of offensive things, I do have to ask you, I'm not taking a bunch of super chats today or anything. I'm not allowed to take super chats, but I'm not taking a bunch of chats. But a bunch of people are asking why you apologize to the mob. Just to put it simply, why?
Apologize for what?
They're saying, I haven't even seen your tweet, but apparently they're saying you tweeted and went back on the being a part of that plank or whatever.
Nipples. I'm here for nipples. If no nipples are going to make an appearance.
I refuse to cave into the woke mob about my nipples. I don't know what we're talking about. What did I?
They're talking about.
I'm not following.
Hold up. Let me find it. Let me find the comment. The plank, the thing that your name was on, and you said that you didn't necessarily want to be.
the Cohen Compromise.
Yes.
No, I didn't apologize. I clarified. I've said from the beginning, I thought that it would probably just, for a myriad of reasons, probably just be best to leave the wording as is. That was going to be removed. Okay, great. Well, let's see. Is there a way that instead of just removing that wording, we can replace it with something that is as good or possibly even better? And that's what I said in that. But that wasn't apologizing. That was the reality of that's why I did what I did. I was never a fan of removing it. In fact, we're talking about Nick Gillespie or Gillespie. In my Reason interview, he asked me about it.
It's a hard
the day before. And I thought it was Gillespie, but at any rate, when Nick asked me about it, I said, yeah, I'm not a fan of removing it. I understand the argument behind removing it. If we were still in the phase of debating adding it in the first place back in 1974, I'd probably be on the side of saying, let's say something else instead. But once it's there, there's the perception potentially that removing it makes it sound like we're saying we're okay with bigotry. That's nothing new on my part. So no, that wasn't me caving. That was me explaining why I did what I did. And frankly, especially after getting the feedback on the wording, I think that it's good wording. You know, the previous wording says, bigotry is bad. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
What does that mean? What are we going to do? It doesn't actually, there's nothing actionable. It just says that's bad. We condemn it. Okay. We've replaced it by saying we're going to uphold and defend the rights of everyone, even those that are marginalized, even those that are, people of color, regardless of your identity. We're going to uphold and defend your rights. That's an actual action. That's not just saying the bad thing is bad. It's saying we're going to defend people who don't just have bad thoughts, but have bad actions against others.
Yeah.
And I pretty much agree with Spike on the thing. Like I was a delegate. I didn't vote to replace that part of the platform, but I understand the argument against it. And actually what we're saying here is more specific and more accurately describing what libertarians view. First off, saying bigotry is irrational is kind of weird because I think by definition, bigotry is irrational. Right? Like that's part of what the word means. But it also, like, the truth is that what libertarians, if we're talking about like prejudice or something like that, it's like there are like very nuanced situations where, like, I don't know, like there are like black people who go to all black churches. Now that might be their preference to go to an all black church. Now that is by definition racially prejudiced, but I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that if that's what they prefer and that's like where they're more comfortable. But what libertarians actually believe, if you just want to slice right down to it, is we believe that all people have natural rights, period. And that no person, no matter what race they are, no matter what gender, no matter what identity they are, that they have natural rights. So ultimately, however you feel about this, from the libertarian perspective, I think it would be hard to argue that this new like phraseology doesn't cut more down to the core and precisely explain what we really believe in here. Like what we're really saying is that, like, forget like what your feelings are. People have rights. And if you try to infringe on those, we will support you being physically stopped from doing so. And like that's really what we stand for.
I've got to jump in here because there's a historical thing too. That
I'm going to jump off. So
okay,
great talking to you guys.
We'll talk about the Mises Caucus bash with you later, Mike.
All right, thanks.
Okay, people keep saying, "Oh, this has been in here, ooh, from the '70s." I don't like historical claims being made that are misleading. Yes, it was in there in the '74 platform. It lasted and was deleted in 1980. Okay, so it has not have a 50-year history. From 1980 through 2008, it was not in the platform. It's been not in the platform for equally as long as it's been in the platform.
Longer, actually.
Well, it kind of equal. So in 2008, just an FYI, is right after the Portland massacre. And the reason why it made it back in 2008 is there was a lot of angst in the party about the Portland massacre. And the people who were trying to rebuild the platform sold the new platform by going, yeah, but we went back to the 70s and revived some phrases. So listen, it is true it was in the platform in the 70s, but the way it's being made to be like there's this 50-year history of that being in the platform is absolutely false. I don't like false narratives being spread about history.
And by the way, it probably made a ton of sense in the early 70s to put that in, because even though it's like a little bit like outside of the scope of libertarianism, like how you feel about bigotry. But like, if you're talking about coming off a period, you're maybe 10 years out from the Civil Rights Act, and you're saying, and like, you know what I mean? Like really in the very recent memory is like Jim Crow in the South. And you're saying like, look, while we don't support laws against this, just to be clear, we find it to be like repugnant, the idea that you would be prejudiced on this basis. It just probably made a lot more sense to put that language in there then. Whereas like in the year 2020, the idea that it's even necessary to say like, oh, by the way, if someone hangs a whites only sign in their business, we think that's a moral outrage. It's like, yeah, I mean, so does everybody. Like everybody's in agreement that that would be like morally abhorrent to do. And there's really no like sense that that could realistically happen anywhere.
I'm going to interject here and give Spike a chance to respond, and because they started with him, and then we are going to move the fuck on from racism, because that is not the minutia that I intended to get into.
I was specifically told that this was an all racism episode, and I'm not.
I mean, the Mises Caucus took over the party, so basically, yeah.
No, I
That's
want
what I was
a
told.
nipples episode.
I was told.
I'm telling you, I'm leaving.
That's next. That's the next episode. That's the next episode.
Appear.
So the analogy I give is, if you imagine yourself as a black person, a gay person, trans person, whatever, and there is an actual like oppression of you, not just someone giving a bad opinion of you, but someone that is trying to use the law to oppress you, someone who is trying to actually just hurt you directly, even as a private actor. And now imagine if someone were standing off to the side and said, I condemn this as irrational and repugnant. As opposed to saying, I'm going to fight on your behalf and alongside you to protect you against those who would try to harm you. Which would you rather someone say?
The first one.
I think your language was an improvement on the plank. I understand, and I completely commiserate with you preferring to just leave it in. I have to tell you, I don't think I'm revealing any state secrets here, and I'm meaning state in private. I actually advised against not trying to remove that language in private discussion groups, but because I think just removing it and replacing it with nothing would have been a mistake. Your replacement, I think, is awesome, and it actually states our position. But I'm gonna, while I have a word in edgewise, I am going to just state another historical reality, because you know that's my fetish. Don't kink shame me, bro. Is that with the whole abortion thing, by the way, I was opposed to removing the abortion plank. I know that's going to shock a lot of people, but I was opposed to it, and I could explain why, because I did change my position on that over the past couple of years. But what a historical fact, what a lot of people don't realize, go look it up. Our original platform only called for the legalization of abortion up to the first 100 days. I wish pro-choice people would be honest about that. But of course, then Roe versus Wade happened, and that's when our platform changed. But for people to claim that our party has always been 100% through the time the umbilical cord is cut, pro-choice is just not historically accurate. Our 1972 platform only called for it for the first 100 days. I don't agree with that, by the way, but it's a historical fact.
Listen.
This discussion is straying dangerously far from racism, and I'm concerned
about. Listen,
and really far from nipples, which is what I want.
It's not even, nipples aren't even in the ballpark.
Order.
The vice chair has the floor.
Or listen, the longer you guys don't let me talk, the more stuff I save up to talk about. It's gonna get real ugly here soon. First of all, I want to go back to Nick Gillespie. He asked me to sit down for an interview. I told him I would. Then Brian Doherty put out the article about us, and I refused to do an interview with Reason because reasons. But anyways, I led a whisper campaign to remove the woke language out of the platform. You guys can blame me for all of that. But I do want to recognize we're talking about 2006, 2008. These people have been calling us Republicans who are trying to get into the Libertarian Party to make it ineffective. But these people that have been calling us this have started libertarian institutes that work with Republicans. And they have constantly 100% brought in Republican retreads that were ineffective to the party to try and make it more effective. I'm just saying it's hilarious. We're a bunch of Ron Paul activists, and the Fed activists, cop watchers, decriminalization movement guys. That's where we came from. We didn't come. I'm not a Republican. You know what I mean? I haven't been a Republican since 2009. You know, I've been anti-war since I got out of the military in 2005. And these people are calling me a Republican who was trying to get into the Republican Party, which, by the way, I've been a voting a libertarian voter since 2010. 12 years I've been a libertarian voter. They're calling me a Republican operative who's trying to ruin the party. When we got in the party and immediately raised, I don't know, several $100,000 in the first couple of days. These people are projecting so hard.
Everyone knows that racist Republicans are big fans of white chicks with pink hair that have refused to reproduce.
We just love that. That's how we roll.
Archetype is their favorite. Everyone knows it. Just cut it out.
Yeah, anyways, I just wanted to make those things clear since we were talking about 2008 when the Republicans really did take over the Libertarian Party. And we've been fighting to get them out for the last 5 years. So
tell me how Jeremy Kauffman running for Senate in New Hampshire is helping any Republican.
Right.
Oh yeah, the Republicans love that shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Mises Caucus Bash was Friday night, and I guess we'll just jump back to that.
Order.
We had the time to talk about Ron Paul giving a speech at a Libertarian Party convention, and instead we decided to whatever that was that just happened. But anybody can jump in. We're too deep into this thing, but anybody jump in, give your thoughts on Ron Paul night, and actually, Dave, we'll start with you as the guy who brought him up. How'd you feel about the night?
Sure. Well, just after this, I'm going to have to jump off, unfortunately, because this is so much fun.
Coward.
Well, for me, like personally, it was really like an incredible moment. It was a great moment in my life and career because Ron Paul just means so much to me personally, and he's my hero and the guy who introduced me to all these ideas. It was. I tell you, there was a moment when I brought him on stage because I revere Ron Paul so much that he's just like this great man to me. And when he was walking up to the stage and, there were no handrails, there was just 2 little steps. And then I kind of realized real quickly, I'm going to have to help Ron Paul onto stage. And there's this moment where I just went, oh yeah, he's 90.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You're like, oh yeah, he's a real person who's pushing 90.
Did you have that sentimental poster of the little boy, his dad's helping the little boy, and then the little boy grows up and he's helping his dad, and it's like, oh, it's just a beautiful moment.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
something like that.
I got from it.
But it was incredible, man. I mean, dude, to be God willing, man, we're all that sharp and up on everything that's happening when we're 87 years old. I mean, he went off at one point about how China and Russia having talks to work out a gold-based commodity standard for their trading agreements, and you're like, God damn, this guy who knows more than everybody else in the room is still up on what exactly what the latest economic meetings are between different powers throughout the world. So he's just an incredibly well-informed, just really deeply cheerful person who seemed so happy to be there and have so many people who were excited to see him. And, I don't know how many more moments like that we'll have where Ron Paul will be at them. So to me, that was what meant the most personally to me out of the entire weekend. And let me just say, because I gotta run out of here, but I will say that like one thing that I really think a lot of people should be excited about, and this is whether or not you were completely on board with the takeover, and I don't mean just the language, I mean actually like what happened at the convention this weekend. It happened, and now that's in the history books, that's in the past. And this does, baby. Copen seed. Well, yeah. Well, but look, this does present a tremendous opportunity for the Libertarian Party right now, where there's a whole lot of people like we got Timcast sent out a guy who wrote up a whole story on what happened. There were lots of different people from different organizations that were paying attention to this, that have heard about this. And we now have an opportunity where basically all they know is that there's been a huge shakeup and a rebranding of the Libertarian Party. And so a lot of people who maybe weren't taking us seriously in the past will be willing to give us a second look now. And I think that presents a huge opportunity for us, especially in this time where it actually looks like it's going to be Biden versus Trump again. And like and there's inflation and the economy sucks and the war in Ukraine and all of this stuff. Like we've got a big opportunity now. Hopefully a lot of us can all kind of come together and make the most of that opportunity. Anyway, great to see all you guys. I'll talk to all of you very soon.
Thanks.
Be good.
Thanks, Dave.
Yep.
Peace.
See ya. Right on. So, I mean, the bash was the bash, and it went just as amazingly as we expected. And I've got tons of video footage. All the speeches, I believe, are going to be coming out soon. So we don't have to not nitpick, but get into the nitty gritty of those in particular. But did anybody else have any thoughts on the bash before we move on to Saturday?
I will.
I gotta get going. I gotta get going.
Cool.
Love you guys.
Oh,
thanks, Vice.
Bye. I will say that the two things that really struck me particularly about when Dr. Paul got up, one was exactly what Dave said, seeing that, here's this guy that we look up to as, kind of the leader of this, revolution that started in the 2000s. And, he needed help to go up the stairs.
Yeah.
And it is like that. It's like that meme, you've got, I'm thinking of the one with like Master Splinter, right, and the turtles. And it's like, now the turtles are helping Master Splinter walk, and everything they know is what he taught them. And like Dave said, we don't know how many more days we have with him. And we gotta, it's our turn to take this torch and go with it. The other thing I would say, and that's as libertarians in general. The other thing is one thing that Dr. Paul talked about over and over again, not just in his speech, but has talked about many times, is that you spread this message. It's a dire message. It is a serious message. You have to spread it with love and with good cheer and with truth. People are attracted to someone who is enjoying themselves and having fun explaining how we don't have to live this way. Yes, you have to seriously talk about what we're going through, but you can also present the alternative, which is much better, not having this out of control inflation, having a controlled monetary supply, having a market-based currency, having an end to the wars, having an end to the warfare, welfare state, having an end to all of this and living freer lives as a result. And I would like to see that shift, that we are much more positive in the way we are presenting things, because we know we're going to win. We know that they can't stop this, like in your video, the idea whose time has come. And we're just, sharing the good news of it. That's my takeaway from this. And I think the last thing from really all of this is no longer the Mises caucus.
Right.
This is the Libertarian Party. By almost 70% of the vote of the delegates, this is the Libertarian Party. By 100% of all the leadership positions, this is the Libertarian Party. And the shift has to occur. We're no longer doing a pursuit of the party.
We're moving on up to take over the Republican Party now, obviously.
Well, yes, exactly. Now it's time to be co-opted by the Republicans. No, this is no longer about pursuing the control of the Libertarian Party. This is now about leading the Libertarian Party. That involves, and Maj Touré talked about that in his speech, there's going to have to be olive branches. There's going to have to be outreach to people who in good faith were not in favor of this and did not like this, but do still want the party and the movement to do well. And I look forward to seeing that. I look forward to seeing the shift from pursuit to ownership to leadership.
Yeah. Now, Spike, I know you don't have a ton of time. Feel free to leave whenever you want, but before you go, like Dave, I want to get your thoughts on the bash first, but Spike, before you leave, I have to get your thoughts on the gala. So stay tuned, everybody, for Spike's thoughts on the gala, because he and I were the only two people here that were there, and we'll share those in a minute. But Dave Casey, thoughts on the bash?
Dude, I won't forget that night for a really long time. First of all, I got a really good seat. I saw one seat like up front. I tapped this guy. I'm like, yo, was somebody sitting there? He goes, somebody was. I'm like, well, if they come back, just let me know. But I'm going to sit here.
Yeah.
So I had a really good seat for the whole thing.
Nice.
It was really cool to be nominated for a content creator award, just to kind of, nice little pat on the back. I know you were too, but we were robbed.
We were absolutely
So it
robbed
started out low.
by whoever this logo guy is. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, he did a pretty nice job.
I kicked all y'all's ass. I'll just say that, though.
You kicked Ron Paul's ass,
watching,
so we can't really complain.
I loved watching Scott Horton have fun and like be a great MC.
Right.
Just kind of like
to get out of anti-war mode and
yes, he's
mode.
always so he's so in that, and it was cool to just see him have fun. Maj's speech was incredible, sobering. You know what I mean? We're partying, but like
why they made Scott Horton the MC? It's so because if they gave him a speech, nobody else would get to speak. So they're like, you're going to introduce people, and that's it, and you can make one joke per thing.
It was great. Get 10 people and go back to the room and tell everybody to just shut the hell up. It was fantastic.
He was good at that too.
He's great.
Yeah, he was good at that.
Ron Paul coming out giving us the meme. God damn it!
Yes,
it was fantastic, and I love. God, it was such a great night. But yeah, Mike has said this a lot, and it didn't really occur to me until a few months ago, when he said it. I hadn't even thought about this. But if we didn't do this, and I don't care, I'll probably get cult of personality shit casted at me. But
sure.
If we didn't secure a place for Ron Paul's legacy to live on for the next 500 years, like where would that be? You know what I'm saying? So that can be
GOP Mises Caucus. I'm pretty sure.
The GOP is not going to do it. Neither is the GOP Mises Caucus. Those guys got no money.
Yeah.
But it means everything to me that I think that's what we did. We secured a place for that to live on, and that gives me a lot of energy.
Long story short, the bash was an event that if it happened outside of this whole clusterfuck of a weekend, like it would have still packed the room. Like the amount of energy that was in the room, people would have still driven to see that. But Saturday, let's talk about Saturday a bit. There were the speeches, there were the main votes. We already talked a bit about chair and vice chair and all that stuff. We can jump around, but the gala, Spike, I'm not going to put you in any uncomfortable situations here, but what are your thoughts on the gala personally? I might rant more about it later behind the paywall, but what are your first thoughts on how the gala went?
I love the DJ. No, here's what I will say, because I have it was friends of mine who actually had to plan and put together the gala itself.
Sure.
All of that went off without a hitch. The gala itself,
right.
The schedule of the events, everything went well. I think what the gala reflected, and I may be wrong, I think the gala reflected that usually the people that will go to a gala are the ones who were the most concerned about the future of the party as a result of Mises taking over. As a result, they raised, I believe, $3,500 or something like that, compared to previous years where add a zero to that is how much was raised at them.
Mm-hmm.
And put it this way, we raised more money later that night at the You Were the Power after party at the Grand Sierra.
Wow.
So I mean, I think that.
Do you think that was intentional? Because there wasn't fundraising. There was like a little bit of an auction, but there wasn't.
There was an auction. I think that it was reflective of the anxiety of some of the people that typically would go to like a gala, some of the higher donors, of what is going to happen with the future of the party. And those are frankly their concerns that are going to have to be addressed by the leadership there.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, my salmon was good.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll bash on it.
Spike on this, by the way.
You what?
I don't agree with Spike on this.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll go,
Okay.
before we do that, I just want to.
Like I said, that was my reflection. I'm happy to hear your thoughts on it.
I just want to make a point that I will bash on the cringiness of the gala because it's not my style. But I have no problem with people doing cringy things that aren't my style. That's not the thing that I take issue with. It's, it's primarily it seemed like there was a little bit of tension against Angela and her speech and the lack of fundraising, the lack of really what seemed like effort. It was like senioritis for people who were on their way out the door, from what I felt. But go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, I wasn't there. I purposely didn't buy a ticket, so I will say that. But I did talk with some outgoing members of the LNC about what happened. So what I'm saying is not completely out of my rear. And it seems like there was a very purposeful attempt on outgoing administration, not going to name names, to purposely not raise money, to purposely, I don't want to say sabotage, but not give an advantage to the incoming LSC. There was an awful lot of burn the house on the way outis that I think everyone sees. And I'm not going to pretend like it didn't happen, though I'm not going to mention particular names. Also, and this, I don't know whether it was just an unfortunate misjudgment. I don't want to say intentions, but in the past, staff has been in charge of the gala. And it's in staff's best interest to raise money because that's where their salary comes from. From what I understand, and again, I got this from very reliable sources within the outgoing LNC, that all of a sudden the convention oversight committee decided they were going to be in charge of the gala. That's not the way it's supposed to work. They're not fundraisers. So you had people who weren't fundraisers in charge of it. They didn't allow staff to take control and fundraising. So why the LNC didn't step in earlier to change that, again, I have it on good authority from outgoing LNC members that was intentional. So let's just leave it at that. It's in the past. But I do think that was a really crappy move.
Agreed. Anyway,
yeah, like I said, my perception was based on I showed up. I was there to show up, give a pretty smile.
You don't know the internal stuff.
I didn't know the internal stuff. Yeah, exactly. So that could very well be the case. I will say this, regardless of what it was, there's new leadership. Here's the opportunity to show how it's really done.
Which we did the next day when we signed up 45 life members.
Well, there you go.
Absolutely. And more importantly, regardless of what it was, Spike Cohen ended my night that night with dancing with his wife to salsa that I got some amazing footage of. So it was all worth it to me in the end. And
who needs fundraising when you've got dancing?
When you got those moves.
She danced with her husband.
You're right. Yes, Tasha danced with somebody. Some guy. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Now, going back to earlier on Saturday, Spike, your speech was Saturday as well, too. Like yours was, and
yes,
Karen Ann, was your speech? Yeah. Was that Saturday?
Yes.
Okay. Two of my favorite speeches, quite frankly. Karen Ann, I would say yours was probably my favorite speech of the week, and fantastic, moved me more than Ron Paul, which just goes to show you why you got the award over Ron Paul. But where was your headspace in that moment? I'm sure like all over the place, but where were you at when you gave that fire?
I don't ever plan my speeches. I stopped doing that years ago, but I sometimes have some bullet points, which I very rarely even look at. But I decided I was just going to get up and speak from the heart. A week ago, a member, after I, was doing some of my shows, had said to me something that really struck with me, and it still sticks with me, and said, "It seems like the tone of your recent shows have been more about how this harmed you," which of course, obviously it did, what they did to me. He goes, "But you're starting to lose sight of how members who voted for you in 2020 were robbed, and how your donors in 2020 were robbed, and your volunteers in 2020 were robbed." So that's why I ended my speech with the "take back the vote that was robbed from you by people who had absolutely no right to do so." So I think the speech came across so well because I got out of the navel gazing, poor me, pity me mode, and into this harmed the party mode. It did harm me, but it harmed the party mode. And I think that's why the speech resonated, because it wasn't about me. It was about them.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what really sticks with you, because you see somebody in that struggle and you can really separate yourself from, oh, that's just somebody struggling in politics, whatever. But the person that's struggling was there. Like, we saw all the things. We saw, you talking about the stuff that you did with John, other secretary guy, I don't remember his last name.
John Wilford.
Right. The stuff that you did with him, the stuff that you did, just putting yourself out there to make sure the right thing was done, whether it was beneficial to you or not. And I think that showed tremendously. And I look forward to working on some videos with that content, whether you like it or not. But
well, what people, and I don't mind saying it now, I didn't want to use it as a campaign point. But what people don't know, and I'm not blaming John for this, he was very inexperienced.
Sure.
He wasn't mentored properly because of the way he was put into the position. He didn't have any tellers. Most people don't realize the only reason that convention ran as smoothly as it did is because I gave John my tellers.
Yeah.
I trained those tellers. I didn't have to do that. I could have given into a revenge instinct that said, ha ha, let's watch this guy fall on his face.
Right.
But I realized that A, it wasn't his fault. And B, it wouldn't have harmed John. It would have harmed everybody in that room.
Right.
But what people, that's why some of the criticisms really, really hurt. And though the lady did apologize to me, that lady who got on the mic and started slamming me.
Oh, that footage is coming out too. Yeah.
But she apologized.
Okay.
Don't realize that during that lunch break, John and I had a heart-to-heart. I told him what was coming. I told him the motions that were coming. I told him I had no intention ever of humiliating him, that I wanted him to remain convention secretary, that I saw no reason or benefit to the party to take that away from him, and that I asked my tellers who are loyal to me if they would be willing to work for him, and they all were. Now, this was all drama that was going on that the delegates did not know about, and I didn't want to use it to posture to make myself look good. I wanted to win on my own merits, not on some, virtue signaling good deed I did at convention. But now that convention is over, I do think it's important to people to know that, not just because I want credit, but I'm not going to say I don't want credit, because when you do the right thing, everybody wants credit. They're lying if they say they don't. But that's not the only reason. I want to model this for the future, that sometimes you just need to do what's right for the party.
Absolutely. And that goes back to the thing that we were saying about people voting for Josh just in the intention of him falling on his face. Like, this should show you the dichotomy here. It's crazy.
I'm sorry. That is sick. I'm glad Josh won. It's no secret. I endorsed Josh. I endorsed him, and it wasn't a slam against Eric. I endorsed Josh way before Eric even announced. I like Eric, and I hope he's given a very prominent place in this party. Even though it won't be on the LNC, I will advocate for that very strongly. I like Eric. He's a dear friend.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But Joshua had my back in the ugly trenches.
Right.
And he's one of the few that did. So my loyalty to Josh is very, very strong. Loyalty is one of my primary values. But those people who voted for Joshua just to try to screw over Angela, shame on you. Shame on you. I'm not going to say you're terrible people, but that was a terrible action. And even though it ended up with a result I liked, you need to do some serious introspection as to why you're in this party. Because I could have did what you did and got some petty revenge against John. And I'm not going to lie and say there wasn't a part of me that considered it, because we all have the devil and the angel on our shoulders. But I didn't give in to
We all have a Jeremy Spike Cohen on one shoulder and a Jeremy Kauffman on the other shoulder. That's how I look at my life.
But really, shame on you guys for thinking that's what was going to happen. And one thing you don't realize is we have a commitment as an officer team. Angela is not alone. When Angela can't do something, and if perhaps Joshua can't do something, I will do it. So will Todd Hagopian. This is not going to be like past LNCs, where the chair was just basically like kind of a sovereign. That is not the way this party should run. We're a cohesive officer team. And if you think you're going to get to Angela, you got to go through me.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to do that if I were you.
Now, real quick, my argument for Josh over Eric, and let me say this: the best argument that I had for Eric was that that's who Angela wanted. I was like, okay, that's a pretty good argument.
And Gary Johnson wanted Bill Weld.
Joe Jorgensen wanted Judge Gray or somebody else, and we got Spike Cohen. And you know what? That worked pretty well for everybody else. So, yeah, I hope this is.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to compare Eric to Bill Weld. That was very. I
fair.
don't apologize for much, but I will apologize.
No, a better comparison is actually what Dave said. It was actually John Mons that Joe wanted, and I want to be clear about something.
John Mons was great.
John Mons would have been great.
He would have been great.
Is a great guy.
He would have showed up Joe Jorgensen too.
He was my pick for Jacobs number 2, but I didn't get what I wanted either. We got Spike, and it all worked out. So
that's right. That's right.
Loser.
Yeah.
No, it is what it is. But and the reason I make that comparison and why Dave did is because in both cases, Eric would have done a good job as well.
Sure.
But the delegates chose otherwise. So it is what it is. And same thing with, John Mons instead of me. If they had chosen John Mons, I think he would have done a good job. I certainly would have supported him and helped any way I could. And he helped any way he could with my run. So, the delegates chose what they did. And this, like Karen Ann said, this is a team and they're going to have to move forward. And the way I see it is, this is this thing we talk about of several dozen people arguing over getting the vote of several hundred people. And the reality is we're trying to affect a movement that already involves millions of people and needs to involve hundreds of millions of people. So the time for the back and forth introspection stuff, we really need to move past that. It is really time to put rubber to road and take this to the next level as the Libertarian Party. Whether you were Mises, you were anti-Mises, you were on the fence, you didn't really care either way, you just want people to work together, whatever it is, we now are this Libertarian Party that was duly elected, and it is time for us to take this to the next level.
I'm going to make a shaming comment now, and I don't do this much, only because I've got very credible reasons to believe. But again, I always say when something isn't solid, it's rumor, but I also say whether I believe it, that certain people are planning on starting lawsuits over this convention. And honestly, I hope every single person who does that is shamed out of this party. That is absolutely ridiculous. Move on. You lost. Try better next time.
What do they want to sue people over?
Somebody ran into Nick Sarwark.
Because in case the rumors are not correct, I don't want to give people any ideas.
Right.
I'm just telling you, I have very credible reason to believe that. Let me tell you something. I could have sued the party over what happened to me. There's a lot of reasons that a lot of you don't even know that happened behind the scenes. And I chose not to because that's not the right thing for the party. Again, sometimes you have to do the right thing for the party. You win some, you lose some. But anybody who starts a lawsuit over this, I'm not a purger. But anyone who does that should be shamed out of the party.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to do more shaming in the after party. I'm guessing Dave will probably be the only person here by then. But stick around for that because there's lots of shaming to be had. But you got to pay for that. Now, Karen Ann, I don't know how much longer you have, but I do.
Oh, I've got a while as long as you don't mind me.
Okay.
Eating pepperoni, which I'm sure is somehow filthy.
No, you're good.
I like to get filthy.
Yeah, if you're sticking around, I'll go back to Spike for a minute because Spike, you had your speech on Saturday as well, and
Yes.
I thought I said to you afterwards, I think it was one of your best, if not your best, speech that I've heard, and I've heard many a Spike Cohen speech, and
basically all of them. Yes,
they're all just so wonderful. But no, this was great. I thought you did great at kind of smacking both sides on the rear a little bit, like in a loving way, in a Papa Spike, hey kids, get your acts together because we got shit to do. We got clean your room.
Yeah,
clean your room, Bucko.
Very Jordan Peterson.
You have, man. Seriously, who else can do that? I'm serious, Spike. That is really cool that you can touch down on both sides. Ask people to be cordial and cool. It's just, I don't know who else is doing that. I'm very much partisan in the
right, and I get more partisan by the day. But Spike, somebody did mention earlier, I don't remember which one it was, but somebody said that the only they enjoyed your speech. It might have been Heise. They really enjoyed your speech, but the only pushback he had was just pretending like these two things are making it sound like they're equal. There are problems on both sides, but it's hard to deny that one side that is calling people Nazis is worse than the other side calling people retards. Do you disagree?
Yeah, and again, this wasn't about trying to equivocate or say that this side is better or that side's better. My point was going above and beyond that. We need to stop this.
Right.
And if you want to continue this, then just go away.
Yes.
Like if this party is untenable for you and you need to do liberty elsewhere, then go do liberty elsewhere. And I'm not saying that as a get out of here, I don't want, like, just go do it elsewhere. I can't wait to see the good that you're going to do in the liberty movement. If this party is untenable for you, go get involved in your community. If you're not already, go, you know, all the stuff that I listed out. And if you're part of Mises and want to grow the movement, go do those things as well. So what I was trying to do was sort of a redirect and a bit of a vibe check for everyone, which is we are arguing over hundreds of people. Dozens of people are leading arguments between hundreds or even thousands of people. Right. We need to be scaling up on a completely different level. And so the point I'm making is, if we want to end wars, if we want to take the power back, if we want to set the country free, this has to stop. Right. Like, there has been a clear and concise winner, and it's time to move forward. And if you want to be a part of that, let's move forward. If you don't want to be a part of that, then go do liberty your own way. The one thing I forgot to say in my speech is, I am calling on everyone to focus more on doing liberty the way you do liberty, and not nearly as much time worrying about how someone else is doing or not doing liberty. And then really just the rah-rah afterwards of saying, you know, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to be able to accomplish working together. And so, you know, it really wasn't an issue of like trying to say, well, you know, you both have some good points, and both of you are very, you know,
good people on both sides.
Equal.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good people on both sides. It was none of that. It was just saying, listen, here's the bulk of why they are against you. Here's the bulk of why they are against you. If you win, here's what you need to do. Now let's move past that and face the reality of what we need to face if we're ever going to grow as a movement and as a party.
Absolutely.
If it gives you any solace, Spike, I just want, and you know me a little bit, man. I can be an asshole. I can be a little bit of a nudge.
Oh, no. You're an official part. I sent you a badge.
Yes, you did. And I wore it proudly the whole weekend. I want to give some props to my boy, Mike Heise, one more time, even though he's not here. There was a lot of times over the past 4 or 5 years where he could have said, don't send any money to LP National. You send it right here, because we're fighting these bastards. And he never did that. Day one, as soon as they lost, what do? Not, okay, guys, let's regroup. Let's figure out how to get more numbers or anything. Take your donations out. Stop donating. Drop your party membership. Go. We're going to start another party. All this. Dude, it's just, I would agree. It's not exactly the same thing. It's not the same character.
And do you know what I told them? What I told, not them, all of them, but anyone who said to me, if they take over, I'm going to, you know, burn bridges as much as I can to make it hard for them. I told them that is the exact thing that you should do if you want to ultimately strengthen the Mises caucus, because if you leave things behind worse than when you got there, anything the Mises caucus does, or the new LP leadership does, is going to look better by default. Just literally putting out the fire you left behind will look better by default. If you want to make yourself look petty and vindictive, and make the other side look magnanimous and you know, proactive in contrast, then you should do that. So if that's what they're doing, it's just going to blow up in their faces. Anyone whose response to this is not either, I want to be a part of this movement, or, you know what, this just isn't for me, I'm going to move on. If their response is anything but those things, if it's, I'm going to try to sabotage things, I'm going to do everything I can to, you know, wreck shop before they get in, you know, get the keys, then you're just making yourself look bad, making the new leadership look better by comparison, and making sure that people realize that if you don't get your way, you're going to have a temper tantrum and ruin things for people. So no one wants to work with you. That's a great strategy if you want to make sure to continue to widen and entrench the dominance of the Mises caucus and the Libertarian Party.
And that is an excellent segue into our next section, which is Sunday, the day of stalling, the day of tactics, the day of all sorts of fun buffoonery. But I'm going to play... Has everybody here seen the Nick Sarwark video? You guys here on the call?
I played it in slow-mo.
I saw part of it. Okay.
I'm gonna play it real quick.
Really good in slow-mo.
Thank you. You guys won't be able to see it, but I'm going to play it for the viewers at home. And we'll be right back after this.
I feel... Hey!
You just walked right into He just threw his shoulder into me.
Sir.
And this dude has unauthorized recording, and Steve Michaela is...
Rat. Walk away, Rat.
Walk away, Fed.
Mr. Chair, let me move to a microphone with security. I requested as a right, as a member of this body, to not be physically assaulted at this event. Who can say where the road goes?
Ladies and gentlemen.
This was a planned attack. I have evidence that this was planned. Where the day flows, only time.
Ladies and gentlemen. Listen.
I will press charges.
Who can say if your love grows as your... I want to ask this body, everyone, please. We can argue, and we can debate, and we can disagree, and we can yell, and we can scream, but our values are that we do not initiate force.
I want that video found so badly because for probably 4 reasons. Number 1, I want them to find the people that did it. Number 2, I want them to stop being able to say alleged attack. Number 3, I want them to see that I fought back. And I want a little gay boy who might watch this to see that I fought back.
All right, and we're back. Hey, Spike Cohen, talking again and not getting the cues. What's up, Spike Cohen? I just wanted to make sure you're not talking about something that you didn't want the viewing audio listeners to hear.
No. I actually thought that they already were hearing me.
No,
So, hey, folks, it's Spike Cohen here.
Hey.
I wanted to let you know, the talk about unauthorized recording, I just looked it up. Nevada, which is where Reno is, where the convention was, Nevada is what's called a single party consent state. And what that means is that if you are recording communication or recording something happening, if any one person that is being recorded consents to it, then it's fine.
I'll just tell you, I'm in a libertarian. If you're in public, I don't give a fuck state. Like, dude,
well, there's that as well.
Yeah.
You're in public.
But
You're
even
on
by
the
the law,
screen.
Right.
Like, come on. That was a beta bitch move.
Now, I do have, this is just one of many stalling tactics that were taking place. And Ken, I believe you're still in the chat. Good on you for cracking the whip there and moving things along. I feel like it was done very fairly, not just because it was in favor of the group that I was rooting for. I feel like there were some very obvious shenanigans going on. But on the Sarwark thing in particular, there was I do have another video. I'm probably not going to play it here. Maybe we'll play it in the after party or something. But there's another video. I'm not even sure if it's been posted publicly, but where Sarwark is talking to the officers that he had called.
Oh, the officer one though.
Yeah, and he's saying that they pushed him in the chest, and they had this plan. He saw them devise this plan. One of them was going to be walking in front, one was going to be filming from behind, so they couldn't see what happened. But shoved him in the chest, and he keeps referencing the middle of his chest. And if you watch the video, there is nothing going on in the middle of his chest. So. Not only calling the police, and look, I talked to a lot of people about Sarwark at the convention. Like, I don't care. I don't hold grudges, even like this kind of really shady grudges and all the terrible stuff. But like, what would it take for us to be like, hey, Sarwark is cool? Like, what would it take him doing? For me, it's like, maybe apologize. That would be the highest extent, but mostly just fucking stop. Like, that is all it would take, and we'd be like, all right, let's go. Are you guys in agreement on that?
No.
No.
Dead to me.
Dave's like, no, lock him up.
Dude, yeah, I saw he came to the take human action bash. He was like hanging around, smiling, taking pictures with people. It's like, I almost felt like it was professional wrestling, like backstage. Yeah. Like, yeah, that's the name of the game, baby. You don't like it? Come back next time. It's like, he's either that fake or I don't know. But yeah, I mean, he did call the cops, right?
Yeah.
He fucking pulled a false flag on himself like a dickhead. And then he called the fucking cops. It's like, I don't know. That's a lot, man. Plus he pushed all the Nazi shit, all the crap we were talking about earlier. It's like, when do you write the guy off totally and forever? That's what I would ask.
Okay. And crap, he'll probably sue me for this. I don't really care at this point because it's true. And I've often invited him to take me up on some of the claims I've made. Like, I'm willing to take a lie detector test, buddy. how about we both do it, and whoever loses pays for it? Because there's some things he said I've lied about that I haven't. Like when he admitted openly to me that he was steering the party left. When I go, why don't we just steer it libertarian? And how he claims he denies having that conversation with me. He did. My husband at least heard my side of it. And this is what he said. And anyone who knows Nick Sarwark, when I said, I'm going to oppose you on this, he said, Mrs. Harlos, you are going to do whatever it is you think you need to do. I mean, that is classic Nick. But also, like, Nick has routinely threatened LNC members. That was part of his MO. This was even before he was openly bad to everyone. I know I just took it as politics as usual. And even though John Phillips may retract it now, he threatened John Phillips. He threatened me the minute I got in the LNC. He always does it with plausible deniability. But what he did with me is I was picking him up from the Denver airport, and he was just talking about somebody who crossed him. And he said to me, and you guys will see this as a threat. He said to me, you want to know what? Anyone who crosses me, I always get even. It may take me some time, but I always do. And that was a fucking threat. I don't care what anyone says. I understood it. He understood it. Wayne understood it. I'm sorry. That is not someone. They can be a temporary ally. And I believe in temporary allies, but it's not someone you can trust.
Yeah, it's a very Trumpian thing of him to say. Yeah, the Germans have a great word. It's called Schadenfreude, when you take pleasure in other people's pain. And I'm having a little bit. I'm trying to work it out. Like, it's not healthy to do too much of that.
I have no
but
problem with being a temporary ally with Nick on issues that we agree on. And there will be issues we agree on.
Dave, do you mean from his pain in the attack?
I'm glad that Nick Sarwark has been completely rebuffed, just rebuked and gone. Yeah, I love it. It's good. That was part of the mission. You know what I mean? He did a lot of damage. He kept a lot of good people out. Like, potential, it's hard to measure, but like what could we have done in those 6 years? I don't know.
And I tell you, I've said this before, if people want to go to the point of no return of where it became inevitable what happened at this convention. There was always certain points along the way where things could have been reversed, but I put it right back to when Nick started deciding that he was going to tweet attacks upon other very prominent libertarians. That was the point of no return for this party, when he refused to back down from doing that and continued doing that. He was very cocky. He was at the height of his popularity, and he started with that Moulin Law bullshit. Yeah, we came and took it, Nick. Come and take it. We did.
I don't know anything about that, but you probably...
Because it's before a lot of people's time.
Sure.
But that was the point of no return. If people want to place something really at the feet of somebody of what happened this weekend, if you didn't like it, you're looking in the wrong place. You need to place it squarely at the feet of Nick Sarwark.
No doubt.
Yeah. Spike, do you plead the fifth?
I think the video speaks for itself.
And, very politician.
I think that here's the thing. I think that there are people whose relevance comes from outrage, people talking about that outrage. And I think that you take a lot of power from that person when you just don't.
Right.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to disagree again. I know I'm so contrary, Spike, but you and I always had a very friendly, where we don't always agree on things. And that's what I love about
fine,
you.
Yeah. I could be wrong.
But I think there is a truth to what you said, that you do take away power from somebody when you refuse to acknowledge it. But you also cause a lot of harm to the victims of that person, because they deserve to be defended. And I can tell you a lot of people did that with me. Well, we're not going to talk about what the LNC did to you. Oh, it's not my problem. I'm going to look the other way. And I can tell you that fucking sucks.
Yeah, and I don't mean to not ever acknowledge it or talk about it. I think in this case, it's been thoroughly acknowledged and talked about. I don't think anyone's even disputing it. No, absolutely. I think if this were something that just was released and we're all now suddenly discovering it, then I think my attitude would be a lot different. It's out there, everyone knows it, and I think that we can take some powerful lessons from it and move forward from it. Yeah, I think, like I said, I think the video speaks for itself.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
That video is a microcosm, and it speaks for itself.
It's just I have a huge frustration, and I'm going to say this now, like on behalf of the 47 purged members of Massachusetts. I can tell you, even within my own state party, and this happened with Delaware, It's just we got justice for Delaware, and now I want to see justice for Massachusetts. Is even in my own state party in Colorado, I had a lot of frustrations with people saying that's Massachusetts, that's not our problem. And it's funny for a Mises person to say this. I do believe we are our brother's keeper. I do believe it is incumbent upon each and every one of us that we see injustice, whether it's our state or not, whether it's directly our business or not. Injustice is our business. And I think the way of that attitude is libertarian dystopia. I actually do think I'm being very cosmopolitan in my argument that if you have power to help somebody, you should help them.
That I agree with 100%.
Yeah. And I as much as I love to, we don't need to spend any more time on Nick Sarwark. But that was just, as I said.
I moved on to Massachusetts.
Sure, yeah. So plenty
to the
current
of people who are being harmed.
Plenty of corruption to choose
who
from.
were thrown out of a party for signing a petition.
Right.
I don't know why there isn't more outrage about that.
Agreed. Now, we are talking about the convention, though. I have talked about the Massachusetts stuff on here. Go look up the Rothbard and Justin, what's his name, O'Donnell episode. But no, I agree with you 100%. But there was a lot of shenanigans going on even outside of the Nick Sarwark stuff at this convention. A lot of stall tactics, a lot of just taking your time. Karen Ann, you were kind of there in the depths of all that stuff. Do you want to explain a little bit what went down?
Okay, and I'm going to say something that's not going to be popular in this group.
Good.
Stall tactics are parliamentarily allowed. Nobody broke any rules in doing that. That doesn't mean it was the right thing to do, because as I've often said, just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. But I want to be very careful to say that what was being done wasn't against the rules. But then again, the body took control back. I don't really know what was going on in the counting of the Virginia ballots. I'm not going to say in the JC ballot they were deliberately stalling because I don't know. But the fact is the body thought they were, and then they moved. Listen, people, balloting is going to be closed in 5 minutes. And what I found really hypocritical is nobody had a problem. Well, not nobody. A certain group of people had no problem with believing that there was deliberate stalling. But then when the other group said, no, we're going to stop the deliberate stalling, all of a sudden there was a problem. No, both sides were following the rules. Right. You're allowed to deliberately stall. And then the rest of the group is allowed to, by 2/3 vote, to say, okay, enough of the deliberate stalling. Yeah. Both sides were following the rules and playing the game, because politics is a game. It is. Let's just admit that right up front. But yeah, I did see a lot of the stalling. And I have to tell you, one of the highlights so far of my Libertarian Party life is telling, we're going back to Nick for a second. Sorry, not sorry, is telling Nick, no, Mr. Sarwark, I'm not going to entertain your appeal. It's dilatory. And then just him standing there going, and walking away. But I will also say, for people who don't want to admit this, there is one person that I have either personally declared out of order or advised convention chairs to declare out of order more than anyone, and that is Michael Heise. So anyone who wants to say that I'm a partisan for the Mises Caucus is just lying.
Yeah. Spike, what was your take on Sunday? All the stuff, everything that went down, and we ended up getting into the planks and everything, the stuff that they were seemed to be stalling from getting into. Spike, what was your perception of all that? Were you there for that stuff even?
I went in to the business area to the convention hall itself, maybe a total of 10 minutes on that day. So can only say things I heard second and third hand. Mm-hmm. I was there. The longest period of time I was there was when they said that they were about to vote on the compromise wording for the plank 3.5, the changing out the bigotry wording for the upholding the rights wording. So I'm not someone that can really give much input, because everything I heard was from someone who heard it from someone. I wasn't really there much to witness any of it.
Karen Ann,
there was definite stalling.
Yeah,
but you're allowed to do that, and then you just got to take control back if you're on the other side. You got to know how to use the rules to your advantage. I mean, that's just, as a parliamentarian, I can appreciate a good stall.
Right. Now, Karen Ann, you were, when all the stalling was set aside and we voted on just up-down votes, get through this real quick. I heard you even said on your stream that even though it was kind of in your favor, you weren't necessarily a big fan of it because, this isn't the best way to get shit done, but there was no other way to get shit done. You want to speak to that a little bit?
That's what happens when you stall. I mean, you have
Right.
to also accept the consequences of that other people are then going to make motions to protect whatever constituencies or interests that they have. This would have been the second convention in a row in which the convention report was platform committee report was not heard. And I was platform committee chair in 2020. I was platform committee chair this time. And I've seen now over 70 volunteers bust their hump to get good proposals. And I simply was not going to let my volunteers get abused that way again. So I wasn't in favor necessarily as an ideal situation of doing that speed round, but it was the best I could do to protect my committee. And again, I think, as you all know, I'm fiercely loyal to people that I've taken responsibility for. And I took responsibility for that committee, and I was going to have their proposals heard. Even if they were all voted down, we would have been okay with it. But at least we got heard.
Yeah.
Pretty overwhelming too. I mean, I'm pretty sure everything that you want to get past.
It was 13 proposals. I wish we would have gotten through all 19. There was an agorism plank coming up that I really wanted to be heard, but we got some very good proposals in. But I'm going to say here, though, again, and this will show, this is the statistician in me and not necessarily the Mises Caucus person in me. I think you guys kind of punked yourself a little bit, though. Let me tell you how. You deleted the abortion plank. However, you passed a plank in healthcare that very reasonably can be interpreted to be stronger pro-choice than the abortion plank was. Now, I can tell you that was not the intent of the platform committee. That never even came up in our discussions. But reading it now after the fact, I think that is what it does. So I think you guys kind of punked yourself a little bit there. We'll see. We'll see how it gets interpreted. But the people who are interpreting it that way, I don't think they're wrong, even though that was not the intent of the platform committee. But I'm very happy we got in the anti-mandate stuff, the anti-vaccine stuff, the free speech stuff, that words are not violence. Hello, past LNC. I'm very glad we got those things passed. We got in a secession plank. I really wish we would have gotten to the agorism plank, but it was interrupted by the property plank. And I like everything the property plank said. My problem with the property plank is that the style of it does not fit with the rest of the platform. And I think all that's going to happen is that it gets removed next convention because the style is so jarring. Now, from what I understand, that wasn't the final wording. Mr. Kinsella wrote me afterwards going, unfortunately, a prior version is what was read out loud and passed. The more current version was much more elegantly worded. But our platform's not full of all these parenthetical explanations. It is really stylistically jarring. But we'll see what happens. Maybe the next platform committee will just fix the style. I hope so, because the content is great. Yeah. But rushing something through like that hasn't been vetted a lot just generally isn't a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are over 2 hours and 13 minutes. Good Lord. Anybody who wants to can stick around for the after party, but I'm going to keep this party going. Maybe even by myself. That's fine. Karen Ann, if you can stick around for a couple of minutes, I do want to ask you about the first LNC meeting of the new board and all that. But we're going to talk about that there because you guys can't freeload your entire lives away. But as a bonus, whoever had the fortitude to stick it out this long in this episode, go ahead and give your plugs. And we will start with Dave Casey, resident asshole.
Yeah, that's very true. I'm back on Twitter, fourth account, Dave for Delaware. Can't say Dave versus Goliath anymore, or they'll get me. So yeah, give me that follow on Twitter. That would mean a lot. And yeah, I got a podcast. I've been hitting it up every week, trying to be regular with that. It's Monday or Tuesdays. Dave versus Goliath on YouTube, Odyssey, Facebook, Instagram.
And any final thoughts? Elevator pitch, half paragraph or less.
On
me
all
or
the weekend?
The weekend, all the shit.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, this is my first convention. I've been to a couple smaller ones, but this was really important to me. This was 5 years. I was in that group within the first week too. And I don't really have that much faith in institutions, but I got faith in Karen Ann. I got faith in Spike. I got faith in Mike. I got faith in Dave Smith and Tom Woods and Scott Horton, Dan Smots. So
Dope.
Yeah, I'm excited for the future. I feel like this is a really essential thing that we did. And yeah, a lot of potential there. It's hard to measure, but let's see what we can do.
Right on. Spike Cohen, any final thoughts you have and any plugs that you would like to plug and anything that you would like to say before we leave?
I'll do my plugs first. I have my podcasts on Muddy Waters Media, the Muddy Waters of Freedom. If you go to muddywatersmedia.com, or we are on all social media and podcasting platforms. If you would like to be a part of the organization I've started that is working to grow the liberty movement one issue at a time in local communities across the country, go to youarethepower.net. We would love to have you become a member. And in terms of the, I guess, recap of this, the pursuit is over. The contest is over. Congratulations to the victors. Now let's go win for liberty.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
That's it.
And you are the power or something. I don't know.
You are the power.
Do you end every interview like that?
No, but
hey guys, thanks for having me. I'm Spike Cohen, and you are the. All right, we get it.
You are the power.
We get it.
Go.
All right, cool. Karen Ann, wrap it up with you. Again, favorite story arc of the week. So give any final thoughts and any plugs you want to plug.
Well, it's funny, at the last LNC meeting, which I know we're going to talk about, I did say, I assume everyone in this room knows I have a monetized YouTube channel, and that is not going to be used against me in the future. However, yes, I do have a YouTube channel. It's Pink Flame of Liberty. I encourage everyone to go subscribe. It's very niche, though the channel will be probably changing a lot of direction because I will not be having corruption, I trust, to expose this time. So it will go back to its original function of doing just history and party education, but I would appreciate seeing you there. And that's really the only thing like I do that's like extra. And YouTube, the Twitterati, whatever. So Karen Ann Harlos everywhere else, and Pink Flame of Liberty on YouTube.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for being here and hanging out with me especially for this long. It was very great and nostalgic to, not nostalgic, it's very great and refreshing, cathartic to go through all this with other people rather than trying to make a bunch of notes and obsess over what I do touch on and what I don't. So thank you for being here. If you feel like sticking around, I'm going to wrap this up. Feel free to hang on the line. But if not, peace out, and we'll talk to you later. But to all of you people out there, you fine folks at home, go join the Downers Club at patreon.com/The System Is Down right now if you want to keep this party going with us. We've got plenty more to talk about, and I don't know what it's going to be, but some things that I plan to do in the after party we might have to save because I've got a lot of stuff to talk about this convention. But thank you guys for being here. It's been a blast, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this cleared up some things for some of you that weren't able to make it. But until next time, I don't know when next time will be. We gave you a lot here. Enjoy and join us in the Downers Club. We'll talk to you next time. Question everything, stay uncomfortable, whatever I normally say at the end. Peace out. Bye-bye.
Welcome to the system. Everyone's a victim. Doesn't matter if you're black or white, it hates you all. Here inside the system, violence is a symptom. Fighting for what's right, but somehow everyone is wrong. Dun, 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 dun.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe on your way out and help us change the world one uncomfortable conversation at a time. And if you like what you hear and you want to hear more, go join the Downers Club at patreon.com/The System Is Down for bonus episodes of the show every single week. Until next time, please continue to question everything, stay uncomfortable, and I'll talk to you then. Thanks.
This has been a Goulash Media production. goulashmedia.net.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.